Chapter 53-41. The two collided, and a terrifying aura rushed out in all directions, emitting a rumbling sound. After 10 moves in a row, Kunpeng spat out a mouthful of blood. Many of his bones were broken and his entire body fell. Blood stained the sky. Oh! Countless people were shocked. Had the emperor also lost? The elders of the Kunpeng clan clenched their fists, and their expressions became extremely ugly. However, they did not save him. Although he had lost, the emperor had his own pride. If they attacked at this time, they would be trampling on the other party's pride. What emperor? You're no match for me at all. The 10th emissary sneered. On his body, an inextinguishable fighting intent condensed, as if thousands of bolts of lightning were streaking across the sky. Kunpeng's body was shattered and blood stained the sky. However, he roared towards the sky and once again emitted a shocking aura. Beside him, the power of yin and yang became extremely terrifying, and there was even an illusion of a black sea surrounding him. Although he was injured, he still charged out. He had overestimated himself. The 10th emissary sneered. He waved his warhammer, and lightning interweaved. Immediately, Kunpeng spat out blood and retreated. This time, his injuries were even more serious. Many bloody holes appeared on his body, and he fell from the sky again. Countless people cried when they saw this scene. They felt despair. Has Mount Eternal become so terrifying? His Highness. The elders of the Kunpeng clan also cried out in pain. One of the old men sighed. Forget it, let's save His Highness. They could see that Kunpeng's situation was very bad. If they continued to fight, he might very well die. You're really pitifully weak. You're no match for me at all. The 10th emissary withdrew his weapon and stood in the void. It was obvious that he was no longer interested in fighting. On the other side, a sea of blood surrounded them, and the aura of yin and yang descended. Countless people were in despair when they saw this. Even Lin Xian frowned. Has Kunpeng's really been defeated? He also felt a trace of sadness. Kunpeng's huge body trembled, but his eyes were filled with confusion. I've lost. I've actually lost again. There was even despair in his eyes. However, he soon roared angrily. So what if I've lost? Who allowed me to lose? I'm not a god. Just because I've lost doesn't mean that I can't grow. Suddenly, an astonishing light burst out from his eyes. The bloodline in its body rumbled, and a terrifying yin and yang aura enveloped it. His body was changing. A pair of wings covered heaven and earth as he soared into the sky. In the northern underworld there was a fish named Kuan. Its wings were like wings that hung down from the heavens. It could hit the water for 3,000 li and fly up for 90,000 li. A rumbling sound rang out as if it was the voice of a deity. At this moment, Kunpeng's power was exploding continuously. The yin and yang aura was so strong that it could split the sky and earth apart. The surrounding people were all stunned. His strength was actually increasing. What's going on? Wasn't he defeated? At this moment, Gu Feng, the Fire Qilin and the others all cried out in surprise. The elders of the Kunpeng clan, on the other hand, were extremely excited. He had broken through. His Highness had made a breakthrough. Countless cries of surprise rang out. Lin Xian's eyes also shone brightly. This battle had actually helped his opponent achieve his goal. He nodded slightly. The people at Mount Eternal also frowned. Had he broken through? The 10th emissary's face turned cold. He wanted to attack. However, at this moment, the elders of the Kunpeng race could no longer bear it. They all soared into the sky. The terrifying yin and yang aura cut across the 9 heavens. The laws on their bodies filled the air, forming a sea of the northern underworld that swept across the sky. His Highness was breaking through. Who would dare to attack him? Angry shouts rang out one after another. The 10th emissary's face turned cold. The experts of Mount Eternal behind him also stopped him. At this moment, if they were to attack Kunpeng's, the Kunpeng race would probably use extreme weapons crazily. So they didn't go. Even if they had broken through, so what? One Kunpeng's wasn't enough to be feared. They had a bigger plan. The yin and yang aura filled the sky. Kunpeng's broke through and stood up. The aura on his body exploded. At this moment he finally became a double champion. The injuries on his body had also completely recovered. Kunpeng's transformed into his human form. His eyes flickered. It seems that I was too stubborn in the past. I walked on the wrong path. Now I know how to continue. He looked at the 10th emissary and said, "Thank you for letting me become clear-headed and let me comprehend my own path." The 10th emissary snorted coldly. Kunpeng's turned around and walked away. The people of the Kunpeng race followed. Looking at the group of people leaving, the others also exclaimed. It was really surprising that Kun Pengzi could break through. Gu Feng and the others were envious, but the Fire Qilin's face was cold. Another emperor broke through and became a double champion? This wasn't good news for him. 10th emissary, come back. At this moment, the 9th emissary walked out. Let me fight. The 10th emissary nodded and retreated. The 9th emissary looked around and said, Who will fight with me? For a moment there was complete silence. The 10th emissary was already so powerful, let alone the 9th emissary. Who dared to fight? Seeing that no one attacked, the 9th emissary sneered. A bunch of trash. But do you think you won't fight if you don't attack? I have the final say in this battle. Now I'm in the late stage of the great sage, which is what you call a saint. I'll spare your lives if you're below the saint level. But for those above the saint level, you're qualified to be my opponent. So I can attack as I wish. Buzz. As he spoke, a scythe appeared in his hand. Furthermore, it was a two-handed scythe. As he waved the scythe, it swept across the void. In an instant he quickly charged towards the Golden Crow race. He charged towards one of the Saint Lords. That Saint Lord shouted angrily. He wanted to dodge, but he was cut in half by the sickle. Next he attacked again, attacking the Wind race and the other ancient families. Every time he could kill with a single strike. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 Saint Lords had fallen. The others were going crazy. How could they fight like this? Damn it, why don't we attack together and kill him? That's right, there are so many of us and there are also the Emperor race. We must have brought extreme Dao weapons. Countless people roared crazily. However, those from the Emperor clan all frowned deeply. They had indeed brought extreme Dao weapons just in case. But they didn't dare to take the initiative to attack because they knew that there was a human supreme in Mount Eternal. If they angered the other party, the consequences would be unimaginable. Seeing that the Emperor race members didn't attack, the others were in despair. Could it be that they were going to let the other party continue fighting like this? Suddenly, an angry roar sounded, and a Qilin phantom swept across the world. Then 10,000 flames swept out, blocking the sickles. It even forced the 9th emissary to retreat. Who was it? Did an expert appear? They all turned their heads to look. In the next moment they cried out in surprise because they found that the one who attacked was Fire Qilin. It turned out that the 9th emissary had attacked crazily and killed many experts. He came to the Fire Qilin cave and directly attacked the Fire Qilin. Chapter 53-42. The 9th emissary's blood and chi churned. His eyes shone with a shocking light as he stared ahead. So it was the prince of the Qilin race. No wonder he was so strong. Very good, you are worthy of being my opponent. However, you people are too cunning. Are you all trying to hide your strength? That's impossible. Today I will find all your experts. He didn't attack the Fire Qilin but went to attack again. They also knew that these monarch races definitely had experts hiding. It was just that they were like the Fire Qilin, unwilling to take the initiative to attack. Since that was the case, they would force them out and attack again. The two weapons transformed into scythes of death. The surrounding people were no match for him at all. He is coming towards us. The people on the Origin Magnetic Immortal platform were incomparably nervous. Could they block him? Yao Guang stood with her hands behind her back. He said, "It's fine, I will block him." As expected, not long after, the other party attacked, his scythe sweeping out. The experts on the Origin Magnetic Immortal platform all retreated, but Yao Guang stood there. With a cold snort, he slapped out with his palm. It was like a millstone that could destroy the world, blocking the scythe. At the same time, a terrifying vortex appeared above his head. It was like a devouring beast that flew towards the 9th emissary. The 9th emissary was shocked and shouted angrily. He blocked with his scythe. At the same time he looked ahead. Who are you? He wanted to see through the other party. However, in the next moment his pupils constricted. Because he discovered an extremely shocking power in the other party's body. It was as if the other party could tear him to pieces in an instant. He quickly retreated, his expression cold. Good brat, you actually have such a secret. You are cultivating a forbidden martial art, right? You should be the legendary Yao Guang. He found the second expert. He felt that there were more, so he continued to attack. The other immortal platforms were terrified. For example, the Starfall Immortal Platform and 9-Star Immortal Platform had ugly expressions. Fortunately, at this moment Lin Xian and the others were walking towards them. Your Highness, young master. The Starfall Immortal Platform's Palace Master and Madame Purple Star were overjoyed and heaved a sigh of relief. Lin Xian was here. This meant that they were safe. The 9th emissary swept his way. Soon he arrived near the Nebula Immortal Platform and 9-star Immortal Platform. The scythe fell, enveloping everyone. Everyone exclaimed. Lin Xian snorted coldly. He stretched out his palm and sent the sickle flying with a punch. The 9th emissary was shaken to the point where his blood and chi roiled and his arm went numb. He was once again astonished. Had a third expert appeared? However, do you think you can protect 2 Immortal Foundation experts by yourself? Aren't you a little too arrogant? Are you looking down on me? The 9th emissary sneered as an extremely cold aura emanated from his body. Lin Xian said coldly. You're not my match. Let the 7th emissary come. Hearing this, the others cried out in alarm. The 9th emissary was furious. You dare look down on me? The inextinguishable fighting spirit on his body became even more terrifying. The eyes of the 7th emissary in the distance emitted a cold glint. You have finally appeared. I thought you wouldn't dare to come. He walked out and shouted coldly. The others were shocked. Even the Emperor clan's people were at a loss. What was going on? It seemed like the two of them knew each other. Shengguan Shaoxian also cried out in alarm. It was senior brother Lin. As expected, it was him. She saw hope. Lin Xian looked at the 7th emissary and said in a low voice, I'm already here. Release my junior sister. It's not that simple. You actually dare to oppose me. I'll let you know despair. The 7th emissary waved his hand and grabbed Shengguan Shaoxian. Shengguan Shaoxian's face was pale, while Lin Xian's expression darkened. You heard her? I'll make you die without a burial ground. The toad jumped out and shouted coldly. Pa, what Mount Eternal? Top-tier expert? You guys only know how to bully weak women. What kind of top-tier expert are you? If you have the ability, then fight with the double champion. Damn toad, shut up. The 7th emissary snorted coldly. I can spare his life, but it depends on whether you have the ability or not. If you can defeat Old Nine, I'll give you a chance. Old Nine, are you all right? The 7th emissary asked. The 9th emissary said, Don't worry, 7th brother. Leave it to me. This brat dares to look down on me. I'll make him pay the price. Brat, prepare to die. Killing intent emerged from his body. Lin Xian's expression also darkened. Now that his junior sister was in the hands of the other party, he had to hold back. It seemed that he had to capture the 9th emissary in exchange for Shengguan Shaoxian. After all, these people had the strength of the double champion. Mount Eternal would definitely not allow these people to die. At this point he also smiled. Alright, let's fight then. Lin Xian waved his hand. Make your move, or you won't have a chance. Damn brat, I should be the one saying that. But since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. The 9th emissary was indeed angry. They had suppressed the monarch race to the point that they did not dare to resist. Didn't they see that the fire Qilin was unwilling to come out easily? But now, a brat had jumped out and dared to look down on them. It was really detestable. No one could be arrogant in front of them, so he had to send the other party to hell. With an angry roar, the dual sabers appeared in his hands and he slashed forward like a 1,000-layer wave. Was a battle about to break out? Countless people were shocked. This time it was Lin Wudi who had attacked. They did not know how the battle was going. Although Lin Xian's strength had long been ingrained in the hearts of the people, this time, he was a creature from Mount Eternal. The other party was too powerful. Even the monarch race did not dare to resist. One could imagine how terrifying these people were. So in this battle, whether Lin Xian could win or not was really unknown. Facing the terrifying two-handed scythe, Lin Xian did not retreat. Instead he rushed forward. The demon god seal continued to bombard. The terrifying demonic chi was vast. The great seal collided with the dual sabers, emitting an earth-shaking sound. The surrounding people were so shaken that their chi and blood surged. They all sealed their hearing. The 9th emissary's face darkened. Damn it, how could the other party be so powerful? For the first time he was shocked that this person could compete with him. No wonder the other party dared to be so arrogant. The other party did have the right to be arrogant. But so what? Mount Eternal was definitely not something the other party could imagine. Thinking of this, he roared angrily and waved his scythe, turning it into an arc. A terrifying black statue appeared. It was like a god of death with a terrifying aura. The black statue took the scythe and slashed down, splitting the whole world. The power of this attack was even more terrifying than before. Even the pupils of the fire Qilin and the others shrank. Was this the power of Mount Eternal? It was really too terrifying. They were shocked. The others were even more shocked. Could Lin Wudi block it? After all, this was the power of Mount Eternal, the power of the forbidden land of death. In the divine union, The people on the 9-star Immortal platform and the Starfall Immortal platform were even more nervous. In the face of such an attack, Lin Xian also took a deep breath. He formed a seal with his palms. The Taiji diagram rotated in his hand and flew forward. Chapter 53-43. The Power of Yin and Yang. The 9th emissary had a strange expression on his face. Then he sneered. You are really stupid. The strongest power of Yin and Yang in the universe belongs to the Kunping race. And the strongest genius of the Kunping race, Kunping Z, has already been defeated. No matter how strong your power of Yin and Yang is, can it be stronger than Kunping Z? Ridiculous. Go and die. The Grim Reaper phantom that he condensed waved its sickles even faster. But this time he was wrong. Lin Xian's strength was above Kunping Z's. The Tai Chi diagram was incomparably mysterious. The Tai Chi diagram flew out and turned into a Yin god and a Yang god. They were like two giants that stood between heaven and earth. The Yin god grabbed the two death sickles and exerted force. With a poochie sound, blood splattered as if someone had used a heavenly blade to split it open. The Grim Reaper was torn in half. The 9th emissary was also sent flying while vomiting blood. Countless people were shocked when they saw this scene. Heavens, he was defeated. The 9th emissary was actually injured. It was too unbelievable. One had to know that when the 9th emissary came out, he was invincible. But now he was defeated by Lin Xian. As expected of Lin Wudi. The people on the buried Emperor Star's side clenched their fists. Previously they were suppressed by Mount Eternal and couldn't raise their heads. They were very sullen. Now that Lin Xian had won the competition, they were naturally excited. The 9th emissary let out a crazy roar. You dare to injure me? Go and die. The two blades danced and turned into a black storm that swept out. The black tornado surrounded heaven and earth, shattering the void wherever it passed. The surrounding divine ancestors were so frightened that they kept retreating. Lin Xian formed a seal with his palm and attacked again. The power of Yin and Yang erupted. The huge Yin Yang god accompanied Lin Xian's palm and quickly punched out. The Yang god roared and punched the sky. The Yin god was terrifying and froze heaven and earth. The two of them once again clashed with the 9th emissary. The 9th emissary vomited blood and was sent flying again. His divine ability was shattered, and this time, his injuries were even more serious. The surrounding people sucked in a cold breath. The people on Mount Eternal's side were also dumbfounded. Damn it, how is this possible? The 9th emissary was defeated. Who is this young man? Why is he so powerful? Was there such an expert in the buried Emperor Star? They couldn't believe it. Some of them looked at the 7th emissary because it seemed that the 7th emissary knew him. Before the 7th emissary could say anything, the situation in front of them changed again. The Yin-Yang god once again turned into a Tai Chi diagram, which spun continuously and enveloped the 9th emissary. Suppress him. Lin Xian took a step forward, the demon god wings on his back flapping as he arrived in front of the old man. He stepped on the 9th emissary and said coldly, You want to dominate the world? If you can't even defeat me, what qualifications do you have to dominate the world? A calm voice rang out, causing the 9th emissary to vomit blood in anger. Damn brat, if you have the ability, then let me go and fight to the death. You've already been suppressed by me. What qualifications do you have to be my opponent? Damn it, let him go. The people from Mount Eternal also roared angrily. You dare to suppress him? Do you want to die? Obediently kneel down and accept your death. Angry shouts rang out one after another. At this moment, someone from the Yi clan spoke up. Why didn't they follow the rules? When our people were defeated in the previous exchange, we didn't make a move either. Why didn't you abide by the rules when the people of Mount Eternal were defeated? We have a lot of people in the competition. The people from the Yi clan stepped forward, and the people from the Divine Union also stepped forward. The people from Mount Eternal frowned tightly. Don't make a move. This time they came to make these people despair. If a world-shaking battle broke out, then it would be meaningless. What do you want? An elder asked. Lin Xian smiled. It's very simple. As long as my junior sister is released, I can consider letting him go. Hearing this, the 7th emissary's face turned cold. Was the other party threatening him? The 9th emissary also shouted angrily. Who does your junior sister think she is? Is she worthy of my exchange? Is she qualified to be compared to me? How dare she be arrogant? Lin Xian sneered and stomped his foot, breaking one of the other party's arms. At the same time he kicked the other party's body, breaking most of the other party's bones. The pain made the emissary roar. Damn it! He was so angry that his whole body trembled. There was a mysterious rune between his eyebrows that suddenly erupted, wanting to blow away the Tai Chi diagram. Great. The people from Mount Eternal were also delighted. Their trump cards were not what the other party could imagine. As long as the ninth emissary came back, they promised to make him suffer a fate worse than death. Especially this Shangguan Shaoxian, he wanted to kill her in front of the other party. However, they were destined to be disappointed. The Tai Chi diagram shook, but Lin Xian slashed out with his sword. The sharp sword light instantly pierced through the ninth emissary. That invincible power continued to attack. The ninth emissary roared. The wound on his body could not be healed. He was terrified. Damn it, how could this be? The people on the other side also shouted angrily. The seventh emissary, quickly give junior sister to him. Get the ninth emissary back. An elder said. The seventh emissary also frowned. He was extremely unwilling, but the situation in front of him was too strange. In the end, he could only grit his teeth. Fine, I'll exchange. Let's exchange. Lin Xian shook his head. Let him go first. Damn it, what if you don't let him go? Lin Xian said, you have no choice if you don't want him to die. If he were to die, it would be a huge blow to Mount Eternal, right? The seventh emissary had no choice but to let Shangguan Shaoxian go first. Senior brother. Shangguan Shaoxian flew over. Lin Xian nodded. Are you injured? Shangguan Shaoxian shook her head. It's just some minor injuries. Behind her, the people of the Divine Union also flew over and took Shangguan Shaoxian. They let him recover. The people of Mount Eternal said, I've already let your junior sister go. Now you can let our man go. Don't worry, I won't kill him because he's too trashy. He's not qualified for me to kill him. You guys value trash like him so much. Mount Eternal is not that great. After saying that, Lin Xian threw the ninth emissary far away as if he was throwing away trash. The people around felt their scalps go numb. Trash? Only Lin Xian dared to say such a thing. The others were not a match for the ninth emissary. The people of Mount Eternal were also trembling with anger. They had spent so much effort to cultivate the ninth emissary, but he actually called him trash. They could not stand it. Lin Xian's eyes, however, shone with an extremely sharp light. Although I've spared the ninth emissary, it doesn't mean I'll spare you. You dared to hurt my junior sister. I'll make you pay. Get over here and accept your death. Lin Xian looked ahead. The seventh emissary's face was cold. I've been wanting to kill you for a long time. He also walked out. You guys go too. Behind him, the elder of Mount Eternal said coldly. Suddenly, two more attendants walked out. They stared at the Fire Qilin and Yao Guang. These two were extremely terrifying experts. They wanted to kill them together. For a moment, the atmosphere became tense again. Chapter 53-44. The seventh emissary targeted Lin Xian, while the other two emissaries targeted Hu Qilin and Yao Guang respectively. Biting cold killing intent began to spread in the surroundings. The three emissaries were as fast as lightning as they charged towards their respective opponents. The seventh emissary waved the battle saber in his hand and turned into a ray of light. Like a meteor, it drowned the place where Lin Xian was. A rumbling sound was heard as Lin Xian punched out. It was like a sun shining in all directions. This sun advanced courageously, slaughtering its way forward, destroying everything. It struck Fan Guang until he trembled. The power of the divine body was completely unleashed at this moment. Lin Xian was like a sun god of war sweeping in all directions, blasting away the saber light. The surrounding people exclaimed, "What a terrifying physique." Even if they had powerful sacred weapons, they would not dare to resist such a saber light. Now, Lin Xian had blasted them away with just the power of the divine body. It was really shocking. The seventh emissary's expression was also very serious. His opponent's physique was beyond his imagination. Lin Xian said coldly, "Show me your true strength. Otherwise you are no match for me." Good. The seventh emissary had fought with Lin Xian before. He knew that his opponent was definitely an expert. Therefore he did not dare to be careless. Saber light appeared on his body as the terrifying saber law swept across the 9 heavens. At this moment the sky fell and the earth cracked. Nothing could stop it. Lin Xian also strode forward. He was emitting an extremely terrifying aura. The Tai Chi diagram spun again. The law of yin and yang danced between heaven and earth, turning into the yin-yang god. It was indomitable as if it was the divine king. It appeared. Everyone was shocked. The Tai Chi diagram was one of Lin Xian's super powerful techniques. He had used this technique to defeat the 10th emissary before. Now, was he going to use it to deal with the 7th emissary? The people from Mount Eternal frowned. This young man's yin and yang power was even more terrifying than the Kunping clans. It was really unexpected. The yin-yang god in front attacked. Its terrifying power shattered everything. It enveloped the seventh emissary in front. The next moment, countless black holes appeared in the sky, and the seventh emissary disappeared. When the surrounding people saw this scene, they cried out in shock. Tian Tian couldn't have been killed in one move, right? Everyone was horrified. This Lin Xian was too heaven-defying. On the other hand, Lin Xian's expression was incomparably grave. He naturally knew that the other party had the strength of a double champion. It was impossible for him to be killed so easily. Rinnegan opened in his right eye and looked in all directions. In the next moment, his figure flashed and flew to the side. Suddenly, a saber light appeared behind him and split the void apart. Lin Xian dodged the attack by a hair's breadth. Lin Xian's figure swayed again. He used Shadowless Heaven's net, and his figure became extremely ethereal. However, the saber light was extremely terrifying. It tore apart all the phantoms it formed. His speed was so fast that he looked like a bolt of lightning dancing in the sky. The spectators were all dumbfounded. The reason for that was because they were unable to tell where the seventh emissary was. They couldn't see Lin Xian's figure either. They could only see terrifying black holes appearing one after another. Now they also knew that the seventh emissary didn't die at all from the attack just now. He dodged at an extremely fast speed. As expected of the seventh emissary. He was stronger than the 10th emissary. Lin Xian, who was in front of him, snorted coldly. The yin-yang god released a terrifying yin-yang sword qi. With him as the center, it spread in all directions. At this moment, the void was completely shattered. No matter how fast and strong the other party was, he couldn't hide anymore. Sure enough, a figure flew out from the void. Saber light surrounded his body, resisting the yin-yang sword qi that filled the sky. In the next moment, he stood in the void like a saber god. The long saber in his hand danced. A huge saber light slowly condensed, emitting a terrifying light. Then he charged towards the yin-yang god. An earth-shattering sound was heard. The sky fell and the earth cracked. The two supreme supernatural powers made the surrounding people retreat. The power of this saber was extremely terrifying. It carried an indestructible power as if it was a saber from Mount Eternal. The yin-yang god was shattered. Countless people were terrified. Was the Tai Chi diagram broken? However, the seventh emissary's pupils shrank. Because he found that the shattered yin-yang god had turned into a Tai Chi diagram again, spinning non-stop. Like an aurora, it flew towards them. He quickly retreated. In the next moment, the attack hit beside him, shattering the void around him. His blood and chi were in turmoil and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The surrounding people exclaimed, "So powerful. This Tai Chi diagram was too mysterious." The complexions of the Twins of Destiny clan became extremely unsightly. Their Destiny twins could form 3 statues. As long as they weren't destroyed at the same time, they could recover indefinitely. Previously, Lin Xian had killed his way into their Destiny twins and absorbed a lot of Destiny power. Therefore, the other party's Tai Chi diagram probably had the same power as theirs. As long as the yin-yang god wasn't destroyed at the same time, it would probably recover indefinitely. The Tai Chi diagram wouldn't shatter. Damn it, the other party was using their power. This made the Destiny twins grit their teeth so hard that they almost broke. It recovered again? The seventh emissary also snorted coldly. But soon he sneered, "So what? Compared to being immortal and indestructible, you are far inferior. The power of our Mount Eternal is the true immortal and indestructible. Now I'll let you truly experience this power." The seventh emissary charged over. At this moment he quickly rushed over and fought in close combat. The saber light swept in all directions. He tore apart the yin-yang god again. The yin-yang god was shattered, and his body was also split open. But in the next moment his body quickly recovered, and he charged towards Lin Xian. The surrounding people exclaimed, "Heavens, his recovery speed was so fast." The older generation of sacred lords were also shocked. This was the power of Mount Eternal. Mount Eternal had the power of being immortal and indestructible. Were they immortal? It was too unbelievable. "Boy, what do you have to fight with me?" This time, the seventh emissary finally arrived in front of Lin Xian. He slashed down at Lin Xian with his saber. Lin Xian formed a seal, the demon god seal, to resist the attack. But the seventh emissary didn't dodge at all. He allowed the demon god seal to hit him. And this saber also hit Lin Xian's body. The two were sent flying. A crack appeared on Lin Xian's body. He used the immortal indestructible technique to form the immortal battle armor and began to recover. The seventh emissary recovered even faster. "You are also recovering quickly. I can even feel the aura of Mount Eternal on you. You have entered Mount Eternal. He was very surprised. He was familiar with Lin Xian's cultivation technique. Lin Xian frowned. He had indeed entered Mount Eternal. He had obtained the immortal indestructible palace from a stone tablet on Mount Eternal. Seeing that Lin Xian didn't answer, the seventh emissary sneered. So what? You can't compare with us. His injuries were the first to recover. Let's see how long you can last. Chapter 53-45. Lin Xian furrowed his brows tightly as the other party charged over. His injuries had also recovered, but it seemed like he was a step slower than the other party. A moment later he attacked again. Demon God Finger. A finger pierced through heaven and earth, and a finger turned into thousands of rays of demon god light. The body of the seventh emissary was penetrated, and the other party's long blades slashed at Lin Xian once again. Both of them spat out blood and retreated. Both of them were injured. The surrounding people exclaimed. The people of the Divine Union also had ugly looks on their faces. This was not good. The seventh emissary had an indestructible power and could recover instantly. In this way, Lin Xian would be the one at a disadvantage if the fight continued. The others also noticed it. It seemed that Lin Wuti had met his match. They did not know how he was going to break out of this situation. Yes, Lin Wuti had probably never seen such a fighting style before. The other divine ancestors shook their heads. It was not just Lin Wuti who had ever seen such a reckless fighting style. No matter how strong one's recovery ability was, each recovery would consume energy. One could even hurt one's martial path foundation if one was not careful. Who would dare to risk their lives like this? However, Mount Eternal seemed to have such a mysterious power that the other party did not care about it at all. In the next 3 rounds, both parties were injured. Each time, the seventh emissary recovered very quickly. He stood in the void and laughed loudly. Kid, do you see that? Your recovery speed is getting slower and slower. Soon your strength will be used up. That will be the time of your death. Do you have any other tricks up your sleeve? If not, I can send you to hell. The seventh emissary's face was cold. His opponent was far inferior to him. Lin Xian's expression was cold. He did have other trump cards. Then he said, an indestructible body? I don't believe that there is such a body in this world. You just have some mysterious power, but you are not truly indestructible. Watch me break the power of Mount Eternal. You. The seventh emissary laughed heartily when he heard this, as if he had heard the funniest joke. The people of Mount Eternal behind him also snorted. This kid was too stupid. Who did he think he was? What method did he use to break the power of indestructibility? We can't be killed. The people outside were really too stupid. In the face of such mockery, Lin Xian remained unmoved. In the next moment, the great dragon sword soul in his body began to circulate. His power surged out and it was invincible. Lin Xian brandished the Hellfire Dragon Sword. At this moment he seemed to have transformed into a peerless sword god. A sword returning to origin, the biting cold sword light drew an arc in the air and attacked forward. You also know swordsmanship? It's useless, kid. So what if you're a peerless swordsman? My saber skills aren't any weaker than yours. Not to mention his recovery ability. The seventh emissary once again used a suicidal attack. He was struck by the sword, but at the same time he charged towards Lin Xian. Both of them were sent flying once again. Recover from me. The seventh emissary shouted angrily. The power of immortality and indestructibility appeared. He wanted to recover instantly. According to his guess, Lin Xian had already been injured 5 times, and these were no ordinary injuries. It was his saber wound. Every time the other party healed it, it would consume a lot of energy. Now the other party was unable to recover in a short period of time, but he could recover in an instant. In that way the gap between the two of them would be too big. He could suppress the other party in an instant. He felt that the battle could end. But in the next moment he cried out in alarm. Because he realized that his sword wound was difficult to recover from this time. How was this possible? The sword chi carried an invincible power. Damn it. He looked at the crack in shock. What kind of power was this? Immortality and indestructibility? You think too highly of yourself. At this moment, a sneer came from the front. The seventh emissary suddenly raised his head. In the next moment he was even more shocked because he realized that Lin Xian had already recovered. This is impossible. How do you still have power? This was completely different from what he had imagined. Lin Xian sneered but did not say a word. Previously when he recovered he only used his own power. Now he used the power of the sword world. There was the holy water of life inside. It was not a problem for him to recover from these injuries. What was going on? What was Old Seven doing? The people from Mount Eternal behind him also frowned. Why was it the other party who recovered? Why didn't Old Seven use his power to recover his body? At this moment, Lin Xian made his move again. It was Sword Chi again, the 9-star sword technique. 9 stars aligned. The terrifying sword slashed down, and it also carried an invincible power. Block it for me. The 7th emissary roared crazily. His saber technique was abnormally terrifying. The huge saber light was like an aurora, causing the stars in the sky to dim. However, at this moment, the starlight in the sky condensed and turned into a divine sword that slashed down from the sky. In the next moment, the two of them retreated again. Lin Xian and the 7th emissary were both injured. The 7th emissary roared. Recover from me. His previous wound had been healed by him, but he found that the second wound was still the same. He was unable to recover in a short period of time. Damn it, how could this be? However, Lin Xian stood up. Do you really think that you are immortal? I've said it before, I'll break your undying body. How was this possible? He suppressed the power of immortality and indestructibility. Behind him, the people from Mount Eternal were also terrified. How on earth did he do it? The others also exclaimed. Yen Ryu smiled, and Murong Qingqing also breathed a sigh of relief. They knew that Lin Xian was using the power of the great dragon sword spirit. The offensive saint technique was invincible. Even if the other party had the power of Mount Eternal, it would not be so easy to resolve. The other powerhouses also guessed it, and they were all silent. Only Lin Xian would have been able to resist such power. It would be difficult for others to do so. What? Damn it, why did it turn out like this? The 7th emissary roared crazily, and the people from Mount Eternal behind him also roared. Damn brat, what kind of method did you use? They could not believe it. Could it be that the sword in the other party's hand was an extreme weapon? If it was an extreme power, they really could not contend with it. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Idiots. Do you think you can look down on everything just because you're from Mount Eternal? Unfortunately, you can't look down on me at all. I am an existence that you can't imagine. I am the successor of the Great Dragon Sword. The Great Dragon Sword. Hearing this name, the people from Mount Eternal's pupils shrank, and their faces became incomparably ugly. How could they not have heard of it? This was a superpower in the world. Other than the extreme weapons of the Emperor clan, there were also some other weapons. Those were the 5 divine swords formed between heaven and earth, representing different powers. The Great Dragon Sword was one of them, and it was an invincible power. However, the Great Dragon Sword had long disappeared. Some people said that the Great Dragon Sword had been broken and would never appear again. They did not expect that the successor of the Great Dragon Sword would appear now. Chapter 53-46. Lin Xian used the power of the Great Dragon Sword Soul to suppress the 7th emissary. This made the 7th emissary so depressed that he vomited blood. He retreated and did not attack again. The battle on the other two sides was also extremely terrifying. The light-shaking realm had all kinds of secret techniques, including the Gu clan's secret techniques and the Yi clan's secret techniques. He could use both the Tianping race's secret techniques and the Fate realm's secret techniques, shocking everyone. Not only were the people from Mount Eternal shocked, but even the ancient clans and emperor clans on the buried Emperor Star were shocked. When such a person matured, who could resist him? The Fire Qilin was using his disciple's bloodline with all his strength. As the Double Crown King, he was much stronger than the Kunping Sun. He carried 10,000 flames and possessed boundless power. The two sides were locked in battle. Everyone was shocked. They could see that the people sent by Mount Eternal were all at the level of Double Crown champions. If they wanted to fight, only the Double Crown Kings could contend against them. Apart from them, only the old Sacred Lords could. However, there were not many people like them. The others were simply not their match. The light-shaking realm cultivator did not use the primal chaos physique. It seemed that he was still hiding his strength. However, apart from that, his other secret techniques were already enough to contend against the other party. At this moment, the 9 Firmament's Quasi-Emperor's soul said, "Now is an opportunity. Get closer to Lin Xian. I want to devour him. I want to obtain his physique." Lin Xian's talent and strength were simply too strong. Moreover, as the Great Dragon's descendant and the 9 Suns' descendant, even the Quasi-Emperor's eyes were burning. The 9 Firmament's Quasi-Emperor urgently needed a body. His target was Lin Xian. Yao Guang nodded after hearing that. "Alright, but let's make it clear. After you obtain him, you have to let me cultivate his Emperor's secret techniques." "No problem." The 9 Firmament's Quasi-Emperor laughed. Yao Guang retreated as she fought. It seemed that she could not win. The emissary from Mount Eternal roared. He felt that this was a good opportunity. He quickly charged over. The two of them fought their way over and arrived near Lin Xian. At this moment, Yao Guang suddenly unleashed a terrifying vortex towards Lin Xian. It instantly enveloped Lin Xian. This strange scene stunned the surrounding people. They had never expected that a light-shaking realm cultivator would suddenly attack Lin Xian. Quite a few people were terrified. They knew that Yao Guang cultivated the demonic heaven-devouring art. Could it be that he wanted to devour Lin Wuti? If that was the case, there was probably no one in the world who could contend against him. Not good, young Master Lin is in danger. On the Nebula Immortal platforms, the people on the 9-star Immortal platforms were all nervous. The people from the Divine Union also sucked in a breath of cold air. Murong Qingqing and the others had indeed said that it was fine. Yao Guang still couldn't swallow Brother Xian. They had full confidence in Lin Xian. After Lin Xian was enveloped by the black vortex, he snorted coldly. You want to swallow me? Just you? He slashed out with his sword, intending to split the devouring vortex apart. However, at this moment, a sinister voice sounded. He naturally can't devour you, but what about me? Upon hearing this voice, Lin Xian's pupils shrank as he thought of someone. That shouldn't be the case. How could that person appear here? In the next moment he felt an extremely terrifying aura pressing down on him. This was the aura of a boundary emperor, and it was incomparably familiar. It's you who deserves to die. This is impossible. Lin Xian roared. Wasn't the 9 firmaments boundary emperor sealed by Sakura? How could he have escaped? Kid, you still remember? If it wasn't for you guys, how could my physique have been sealed? Now that I'm lacking a body, give me your body. At this point, the boundary emperor's soul frantically rushed in, wanting to seize Lin Xian's body. Lin Xian roared. He didn't dare to be the slightest bit careless as he unleashed the great dragon sword soul to the extreme. He slashed out with his sword, blocking the boundary emperor's soul. Damn it! The 9 firmaments boundary emperor roared. His current soul was only a remnant soul. The great dragon sword soul was also extremely terrifying. In an instant he was blocked. He roared, help me restrain him. Yao Guang also took a deep breath. In the next instant, an earth-shattering black vortex appeared around them. He then unleashed the chaotic body in a frenzy, suppressing Lin Xian in an instant. Lin Xian was even more shocked. Chaos physique, you really swallowed the entire sky. He was too shocked. This power made him feel a sense of danger. The people from the 9-star Immortal Foundation roared, damn it, Origin Magnetic Immortal Foundation, what are you guys trying to do? The people from the Nebula Immortal Foundation also said, you guys actually dared to secretly attack our highness. Are you guys trying to start a war? The people from the Origin Magnetic Immortal Foundation said, Yao Guang isn't one of us. If you want revenge, find Yao Guang yourself. Besides, he is the double champion, how can we control what he wants to do? The people from the Origin Magnetic Immortal Foundation sneered. They were very confident now because they knew that there was a boundary emperor behind Yao Guang. Although it was only a remnant soul, it wasn't something that other sages could contend against. They weren't afraid of other immortal foundations at all. Their gazes were all fixed on the black vortex in front of them, hoping that the boundary emperor would succeed this time. If that was the case, their strength would be even stronger and they might be able to sweep away the other immortal foundations. In the black vortex, Yao Guang finally unleashed his chaos physique, suppressing Lin Xian. He said coldly, you didn't expect that you would have such a day, did you? Don't worry, after you die, I will bring your ultimate technique to greater heights. On the other side, the boundary emperor's soul attacked once again. Lin Xian roared, the heaven-devouring jar also struck out. The 9th firmament quasi-emperor roared as he fought back. It's useless. Although you have these trump cards, your strength is too weak. If you had the strength of a boundary emperor, I would turn and run. But now you are merely the great sage. You are unable to fully unleash the power of these weapons. When I obtain the heaven-devouring jar, I will let you know what the power of an ultimate weapon is. The boundary emperor was very happy. He could imagine how bright his future would be. Lin Xian's expression was ugly. He knew that he couldn't hold back anymore. The sword world in his body opened and endless power surged out. With a boom, the heaven-devouring jar directly attacked the boundary emperor. At the same time, the great dragon sword spirit roared, endless power surged, and an invincible power directly slashed at Yao Guang. Boom. Yao Guang's expression changed drastically. She didn't expect Lin Xian to be able to fully recover. The great dragon sword spirit. In a hurry, she used the void ability and quickly fled. On the other side, the boundary emperor was also angry. Damn it, you actually carried so much power. He was really shocked. He also quickly fled. In the next moment, the entire void shattered, and the endless black hole disappeared. The faces of the people outside were filled with horror. This was the great dragon sword and the heaven-devouring jar. Lin Wuti was going to go all out. Heavens, he could actually use an ultimate weapon to such an extent. What happened? They were too shocked. They saw the sword chi surrounding Lin Xian's body swallowing the sky. Lin Xian's face was incomparably pale. What was going on? His aura was not right? The faces of Murong Qingqing and the others also changed. They all asked. Chapter 53-47. On the other side, Yao Guang was sent flying. A wound had appeared on his body, and sage blood was dripping from it. In his mind, the 9 Firmaments sub-emperor's soul flew out, howling furiously. Damn it, it was obvious that the heaven-devouring jar had also injured him. The surrounding people were going crazy. Was the light-shaking realm already so terrifying? Lin Xian had no choice but to use the heaven-swallowing jar. When he saw this, Gu Feng coldly harumphed. The younger generation was competing with their true strength. What was the meaning of using an extreme-grade weapon? Were you bullying Yao Guang for not having an extreme-grade weapon? The Gu clan can lend him an extreme-grade weapon. The 10,000 Dragons Court's Long Wu also stepped forward and said, "We can also lend him the 10,000 Dragons diagram." The others were in an uproar. Were they going to fight an extreme-grade battle? Lin Xian, however, harumphed coldly. Was that so? If you want to lend it, then lend it to him. But do you think you have a chance to get it back? After speaking, he ignored the shocked expressions of these people and stared at Yao Guang. I didn't expect you to have the remnant soul of a sub-emperor on you. Do you think that's possible? What? A sub-emperor's remnant soul? Countless people were shocked. Even Gu Feng's pupils constricted. Long Wu's smile disappeared. If this was true, they really didn't dare to lend an extreme-grade weapon to him. Impossible. How could he have a sub-emperor's remnant soul? Didn't you just want to find an excuse to use an extreme-grade weapon to kill him? Gu Feng still didn't give up. Lin Xian glanced at him and laughed coldly. Idiot. If you continue to stay with Yao Guang, he might swallow you up one day. Do you know what happened to Han Tian? Although I killed him, his corpse was swallowed by Yao Guang. Yao Guang can already use the primal chaos body now. You don't know his hidden trump cards at all. Once these words were spoken, everyone was even more shocked. Even the primal chaos race's members' expressions changed. Impossible. These people didn't believe it. They all stared at Yao Guang and began to question him. Yao Guang's expression was ugly. He gritted his teeth, but he didn't admit it. Because the cultivation technique he cultivated made him an enemy of the entire world. He didn't want to fight with the emperor clans. At least he couldn't do it now. So he harumphed. At the same time, he was secretly communicating with the Purple Mansion. Even though he was from the Z government, he was still very worried. Would this light-shaking realm cultivator make a move against them? After all, light-shaking realm cultivators were growing too quickly and were completely out of their control. They felt that they could not control this person. However, at this moment, the 9 Heavens Quasi-Emperor transmitted his voice to the Purple Mansion Master. The Purple Mansion Master's pupils shrank when he heard the news. In the next moment he stood out and said, Yao Guang is one of our prefect's people. Whoever touches her will be the enemy of the Z Mansion. He also exuded a terrifying aura. Although the Purple Mansion had never produced a great emperor, it did have an extreme weapon, the Dragon Pattern Cauldron. Apart from that, there was also the Triple Crown King and other sleeping experts in the Purple Mansion. It could be said to be extremely terrifying. The others were in an uproar. With the Violet Palace realm fully supporting the light-shaking realm cultivator, they couldn't do anything else. Yao Guang sneered and retreated. Before she left, she glared at Lin Xian. Just you wait. The voice of the Quasi-Emperor of the 9 Heavens rang out. Lin Xian stood there and stared ahead. Were they still going to fight? The people of Mount Eternal had ugly expressions. The 7th emissary also retreated. Now that the other party was holding an extreme weapon, did they still want to fight? Who dared to fight? The elders of Mount Eternal harumphed. The current situation was unclear. Just now they had also felt an extremely terrifying aura. Perhaps the remnant soul of a quasi-emperor had really appeared. Even they did not dare to be careless against such an existence. Today they had investigated clearly. Apart from Lin Wuti, Yao Guang, and a few others, no one else could contend against them. The 10 emissaries on their side were all double crown kings. Once they participated in the Battle of Dragon Transformation, they would have an absolute advantage. So they sneered twice. The Emperor clans of the buried Emperor Star are only SOSO. They can't be compared to Mount Eternal. This is just a warm-up match. When the real battle of dragon transformation begins, we won't hold back. Let's go. They waved their hands and turned into monstrous black flames that swept into the distance. Did they leave? The surrounding people heaved a sigh of relief. However, the powerhouses had heavy hearts. Only a few of the 10 emissaries had come out. There were still a few who had not made a move. They should be even more terrifying. Let's go back. The Emperor clans were also preparing to return. However, they did not leave alone. Instead, they were preparing to gather again to discuss. After all, Mount Eternal was still a threat. The Yi family naturally invited the Divine Union. Lin Xian and the others also went. At this banquet, the Emperor clans and remote antiquity clans began to share their information. However, they were unwilling to mention the supreme existence of Mount Eternal. They talked a lot about the Battle of Dragon Transformation. The top 10 of the Battle of Dragon Transformation could enter the rankings. They would receive the corresponding rewards. The rewards would make even the Divine Ancestor jealous. They could be said to be extremely precious treasures. Especially the first place, they would receive the treasures left behind by the Emperor. They guessed that Mount Eternal had appeared for the treasures left behind by the Emperor. Treasures left behind by the Emperor. Even a quasi-emperor would be jealous, let alone a sage like them. So many powerhouses clenched their fists. Of course, they knew that it was impossible to become the first place. At least, it was the double crown winners. Only Lin Xian, the Fire Qilin Yao Guang and the others had hope. Of course, this was only hope because there were 4 double crown winners on Mount Eternal's side. In addition, some double crown winners had appeared. When the time came, it would be hard to say who would win and who would lose. Of course, some people were worried that if the triple crown winner of the Purple Mansion woke up, no one would be able to contend against him. The Emperor clans also asked. The Purple Mansion smiled mysteriously. This made everyone even more worried. In the Purple Mansion team, Yao Guang was also sitting there. Now, he also needed the protection of the Purple Mansion. His face was cold. At this moment, there was a vortex in his body that was constantly devouring. Devouring half of the chaotic body had greatly increased his strength. However, he realized that he could not suppress Lin Xian. So he decided to continue devouring. It would be best if he could devour the entire chaotic body. That way he would have the confidence to become the Triple Crown winner. After the banquet, everyone went back and began to organize the information. After all, they were going to participate in the Battle of Dragon Transformation. Everyone had to prepare well. Even some of the older powerhouses had to make a move. As long as they were not over 5,000 years old, they would have a chance. After returning, Murong Qingqing, Yen Ryu and the others asked, Brother Xian, was there really a quasi-emperor by Yao Guang's side? Lin Xian nodded. It was the quasi-emperor that was sealed by Sakura. Some of his soul had escaped. What? Murong Qingqing and the others were even more shocked. They had all seen the 9th Firmament Quasi-Emperor and knew how powerful he was. Chapter 53-48. In the future, when you meet a light-shaking realm cultivator, you must be careful. Lin Xian reminded them. Murong Qingqing and the others nodded with a serious expression. Next, they began to go into seclusion to prepare for the Dragon Transformation Battle. In 3 years, the Dragon Transformation Battle would begin. The Dragon Transformation Battle would be held in the Nether Sky Continent. Those who participated would go to the Nether Sky Continent, while the others would go to the Nether Sky Continent to watch the battle. After all, this was a battle that only happened once every 10,000 years. Moreover, there were too many double champions this time, surpassing the previous hundreds of thousands of years. Lin Xian brought Murong Qingqing, Yen Ryu, the Dark Red Dragon, and the others into the Sword World for them to cultivate. The power inside was also very good for them. As for Xin Jingqiu, she left. Xin Jingqiu said that she would not participate in the Dragon Transformation Battle. Instead, she wanted to go to another place to tell Lin Xian not to worry. Where are you going? Do you need me to accompany you? Lin Xian asked. Xin Jingqiu shook her head. Big brother Lin Xian, you can go participate in the Dragon Transformation Battle in peace. You don't have to worry about me. When you participate in the Dragon Transformation Battle, I will come back to find you. Alright, be careful. Lin Xian waved goodbye. Xin Jingqiu left. Lin Xian also entered the Sword World and began to cultivate. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. At this moment, the entire buried Emperor Star and even the entire cosmos, all the people in the myriad worlds became excited. They had already started to gather in the Nether Sky Continent. Fire Qilin Cave, Great Emperor Clan. Fire Qilin also walked out of the Sea of Flames. His aura was even more terrifying than 3 years ago. He looked into the distance and the corners of his mouth rose. Dragon transformation battle? This time I will definitely take first place. I want to see what kind of treasure the great emperor left behind. Although they were from a great emperor clan, according to the information they received, the dragon transformation battle was not set up by a single great emperor. It was set up by several great emperors. Therefore even Huo Qilin yearned for it. Lin Xian, if I have the chance, I'll definitely get rid of you. Fire Qilin's eyes were filled with killing intent. Gu Clan's Starry Sky Palace. It was like the starry sky of the universe, incomparably vast. A man wearing a green robe walked out. It was Gu Feng. At this moment, Gu Feng's aura had also become terrifying. In 3 years he had also broken through and become a double champion. This greatly increased his confidence. Just you wait. This time I will definitely make a name for myself. I will let everyone know how powerful I am. The elders of the Yi family frowned. What should they do? Daolas hadn't come out yet. What's going on? What about Wu Dao? The patriarch of the Yi family walked out. It seemed that it would take even longer than what they had expected. Most likely, they would not be able to participate in the dragon transformation battle. The leader of the Yi clan took a deep breath. Let's not disturb him then. The good fortune left behind by the Yi clan's celestial emperor might allow him to become the Triple Crown champion in one go. Even if he did not participate in the battle of dragon transformation, he could continue to grow stronger. The other members of the Yi family nodded. They were all waiting calmly. Only a portion of the elders brought the young disciples to the Nether Sky continent to watch the competition. The others stayed here to guard Yiwu. The Phoenix clan. They were also gathered together. The leader of the Phoenix clan asked, "Did Qingqing not return?" The elder shook his head. She was still together with Lin Wudi. What about Fengjiu? A supreme elder walked out and said, Fengjiu hasn't come out yet. However, her soul jade pendant was not broken. This meant that she was still alive. That's great. The elders all clenched their fists. If Fengjiu could come out alive, her strength would reach an unimaginable level. Then they could only wait calmly. At the same time, the patriarch of the Phoenix clan looked at the old Phoenix. Fourth uncle, you will lead the team to Ba. You can take care of Qingqing. The old Phoenix said, Patriarch, don't worry. I will move out now. On the hidden Emperor Star, the various Emperor Lords and desolate ancient families all started to move. Mount Eternal. The great elder's eyes emitted a cold light as he looked at the 10 great emissaries. He said, it's time to show your strength. Go. No need to hold back. Among you all, one must get first place. Great elder, don't worry. Those people are no match for us. The 10 great emissaries were very confident. The 7th emissary's eyes also emitted a cold light. Last time he was actually defeated by Lin Xian. This time he must take revenge. It wasn't only the hidden Emperor Star. Experts from other worlds also came. Apart from these young geniuses, there were also experts under 5,000 years old, divine ancestors. They would also participate. These people all gathered towards the Nether Sky continent. The Nether Sky continent was one of the continents above the buried Emperor Star. It had a mysterious power. There was a place in the Nether Sky continent called the Nether Sky Land. At this moment, everyone had arrived at the Nether Sky Land to wait. Some people were curious. They didn't know who was standing behind the dragon transformation station. Although there were treasures left behind by great emperors, who would be the judge? Who would be the judge? They didn't know anything about this. A lot of people came. In the sky, the Purple Palace's war chariot descended. There were countless experts standing on it. Yao Guang was also among them. He looked around and the corners of his mouth rose. This time he might be able to let it devour a few more experts. That way his strength would be even stronger. Apart from this, he also saw some familiar people such as Huo Qilin, Kun Pingzi, Gu Feng, and others. Of course, there were still a few people he didn't see, such as Yi Wudao and Lin Wudi. These people hadn't arrived yet. He wasn't in a hurry. He believed that they would definitely come. Boom, boom, boom. A terrifying aura appeared between heaven and earth. It was as if heaven and earth were about to be turned upside down. Countless people turned their heads and cried out in alarm. It was the aura of primal chaos. Had the primal chaos race come? Someone shook their head. Double Crown King Hun Tian was already dead. Was there anyone else from the primal chaos race who could make a move? Look, it's not the younger generation. It's an expert from the older generation. This time, the primal chaos race sent a few old divine ancestors. They were very powerful and experienced. However, at this moment, one of the divine ancestors was fighting with someone. The aura of primal chaos on his body was constantly rumbling. The person fighting with him was an old man. The old man's great Tao was surrounded by terrifying great Tao. It turned into a sky full of lightning to contend with the old man. The two of them fought while flying. Then the two of them collided and tore the sky in half. They retreated to the side. The surrounding people were shocked. Who could fight against the people of the primal chaos race? It was too unbelievable. The aura on his body is so special. It makes me feel terrified. Many people looked over. Someone exclaimed, could it be that he was from the legendary Tao Yi school? The legendary Tao Yi school of the Great Tao Unification had actually appeared. Many people were shocked. The old man from the Tao Yi school laughed. The primal chaos race was only SOSO. They weren't as powerful as they had imagined. Damn it, how dare you underestimate us? The divine ancestor of the primal chaos race shouted angrily. Should they fight again? Their bodies emitted extremely terrifying light. The elder of the Tao Yi school said, there was no need. There was no point in fighting now. Moreover, the primal chaos race had no hope. Your dual-crown chaotic body is already dead. But our Tao Yi school has a powerful divine body. Chapter 53-49. What was the Tao Yi sect's divine physique? Countless people were curious. The Yi family's elders who came to watch the battle narrowed their eyes. Could it be the legendary physique? It couldn't be, right? He actually appeared? The others were even more curious and turned their heads to look. What kind of physique was that? The faces of the people of the chaotic clan became extremely ugly. They exclaimed, could it be that the Tao Yi sect has found a Tao physique? What was a Tao physique? Some young geniuses were puzzled. However, the pupils of the sacred ancestors constricted. Was it the legendary Khanate Tao physique? It was one of the top 10 physiques in the universe. It was a mysterious physique that was as famous as the chaotic physique, and its power was above the 9 Yang divine physique and the sacred physique. As soon as these words came out, countless people were in an uproar. They had seen the power of the 9 Yang divine physique and the sacred physique. Lin Xian and Yi Wudao were the possessors of these two physiques. They knew about the chaotic physique. Previously, Han Tian had the chaotic physique, and he was the double champion. He was one of the top 10 divine physiques. Such a physique was rarely seen in tens of thousands of years. But now, another top 10 divine physique had appeared. Heavens, it was indeed a golden age. If this physique was in other times, it would be an existence that could sweep across the universe. No one could compare to it. But now it couldn't, because there were too many genius powerhouses now. For example, Lin Xian could kill the chaotic physique before, so he might be able to contend with the Tao physique now. Other than that, another mysterious creature walked out of Mount Eternal with an immortal and indestructible physique. Could be said that in this era there were many powerhouses. Boom. At this moment, a figure walked out from the sky. This figure was extremely hazy, and the great Tao surrounded him like a celestial emperor. After he arrived, the laws on everyone's body were suppressed until they were dim. Heavens, was this the legendary Tao physique? They raised their heads one after another. In the next moment, they all narrowed their eyes. They couldn't look directly at the other party. The great Tao on the other party's body was really too terrifying. The other party was the darling of heaven and earth. They didn't know whether it was a man or a woman, young or old. They could only see a hazy figure standing above the 9 heavens. In this era, even the Tao physique had appeared? It was really surprising. 10,000 lightning bolts gathered in the sky, and the Thunder Sovereign walked over. He looked at the Taoist body in the sky with a solemn expression. On the other side, 10,000 flames descended. The beautiful woman burning incense had also arrived. She was also the double champion who had been sleeping for a long time. At this moment, her beautiful eyes looked at the great path figure in the sky, and an extremely terrifying light burst from her eyes. In the Violet Palace realm, Alcade stood up in excitement when he saw the Tao body. That's great. The top 10 physiques in the universe were not weaker than the primal chaos physique. They were even stronger. If he could obtain it, then no one would be a match for him. Even the Triple Crown winner might not be able to beat him. The Taoist body in the sky lowered its head when it sensed Yao Guang's gaze. Her eyes shone with a cold light. With a loud boom, the heavens collapsed and the earth cracked. Everyone was shaken to the point that their blood and qi were roiling. Yao Guang's pupils constricted as he unleashed a punch. This fist could shatter everything. It carried an incomparably boundless power and a savage aura. The two of them collided, and the light-shaking realm cultivator was forced to retreat. His arm was numb from the shock. The next moment, his face darkened. The Taoist body in the sky said, "You dare to kill me?" Do you want to die early? This voice was incomparably pleasant. Countless people exclaimed in surprise. The Taoist body was actually a woman. Yao Guang snorted coldly. Sooner or later I will devour you. Countless people felt their scalps go numb when they heard this. It turned out that Yao Guang wanted the Taoist body again. This guy was really daring. The atmosphere between heaven and earth instantly became tense. Even the people from the Purple Mansion frowned. There was a person called Shadow Cultivator on the Purple Mansion's side. He was a shadow and was abnormally blurry. He was also a double champion. He frowned and said, Yao Guang, don't cause trouble now. Let's talk after we go in. Yao Guang chuckled and sat down. The terrifying aura disappeared. At this moment, a few more figures walked over from afar. At this moment, everyone felt a sense of horror. The sky kept shattering. The ground cracked. The other double crown champions also turned their heads with grave expressions. They could feel that the double champion had arrived and there was more than one of them. 10 double champion lined up in a row. They stood side by side in the void. They were like the supreme divine king. At this moment they walked forward together. No one could resist this power. The Emperor clan members also cried out in surprise. Mount Eternal. They had come again. These 10 envoys were indeed double champion. They were too shocked. Previously, Mount Eternal had fought a warm-up match with them. That was 3 years ago. At that time, a few envoys had made a move. The others who were ranked at the top didn't seem to have made a move at all. They had guessed. These 10 people could all be double champion. However, they didn't have any evidence. Now it was finally confirmed. The auras of these 10 people had erupted and swept through the 9 heavens. No one could match them. Some people were in despair. Although there were many double champion around, they all belonged to different families and sections. It was very difficult for 2 double champion to appear in a family. The Purple Mansion was already heaven-defying. However, 10 of them from Mount Eternal had completely surpassed the others. This made everyone feel despair. How could they fight? The people from the Purple Mansion had ugly expressions. Even the people from the Tao One sect frowned. Although their Tao bodies were powerful and ranked in the top 10 in the universe, they didn't put anything in their eyes. However, if they were surrounded by 10 double champion, they had no chance of winning. Could it be that Mount Eternal was going to sweep through everything? The people from Mount Eternal came together. Each of the 10 envoys was wearing black armor that covered everything. The only difference was that the weapons on their backs were different. There were sabers, swords, battle axes, and giant hammers. The 10 of them had an inextinguishable fighting spirit. You are no match for us at all. There is no need to fight the dragon transformation battle. Go back because even if you attack, you are no match for us. The 10th envoy sneered. The 7th envoy also walked out. He looked around. Where was Lin Wuti? Tell him to come over and die. With a roar, everyone was shocked again. It seemed that the 7th envoy was here for revenge. Had the other party's strength improved greatly in the past 3 years? They also turned their heads to look. Lin Wuti didn't seem to be here yet. It couldn't be. It was about to start. Was he going to miss it? I think he doesn't dare to come. The 9th envoy also snorted coldly and looked around. If he dared to come, we will make him live a life worse than death. Chapter 5350. The power of Mount Eternal made everyone feel despair. Some people even felt that they could go back because there was no chance of winning even if they went in. Who could defeat the 10 of them if they joined forces? Unless the other double champions joined forces, they would not be able to win. But these people belonged to different sections. Would they be willing to join forces? Don't worry, even if there were 10 double champions, it would be useless because they would be randomly teleported after entering. At this moment an old voice sounded. Everyone was surprised. Who was it? Did he know the rules of the Dragon Transformation Station? Random teleportation? If that was the case, there would be no problem. After all, even if 10 people entered, they would be teleported away. This way they would be fighting for themselves. We still have a chance. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. The emissary of Mount Eternal frowned. Who set the rules of random teleportation? It was obvious that they were about to lose their advantage. How could they not be angry? A voice came from the sky again. I said it. Do you have any objections? Everyone looked up. In the next moment their scalps went numb. Even the expressions of those from Mount Eternal changed drastically. They could feel an extremely terrifying aura descending upon them. Not good. The people from the Emperor clan were even more terrified. An extreme aura. Was someone using an extreme weapon? Could it be that someone was setting up a trap? Attracting all the experts and geniuses and then mercilessly killing them with an extreme weapon? The myriad dragon's portrait roared and the void mirror was released. The people from the Yi family had ugly expressions. They didn't bring any extreme weapons. Everyone, don't be afraid. I have no ill intentions. The voice in the sky sounded again. Then everyone saw a black tortoise walk out. This black tortoise was abnormally old. No one knew how long it had lived. Mysterious runes condensed behind it and were engraved on its turtle shell. It made one's soul ache just by looking at it. It was as if one couldn't look directly at it. A black tortoise. Countless people were shocked. This was a legendary divine beast. It was just a black tortoise, but it actually had an extreme aura. What was going on? Could it be the Great Emperor? The final reward of the dragon transformation battle was the Great Emperor's treasure. It was very likely that the remnant soul of the Great Emperor had come out to host this competition. On the side of the fire Qilin cave, an elder exclaimed, "No, you're an extreme weapon." They were too shocked. The others were also shocked. No way, this was an extreme weapon. The mysterious runes behind the black tortoise in the sky bloomed with light. He said, "That's right, I am indeed an extreme weapon." The Battle of Dragon Transformation was set up by the joint efforts of the Great Emperors in order to maintain the legacy of 1,000,000 years. They left their extreme weapons behind. Apart from me, there are a few other extreme Dao weapons. Together we formed an extreme Dao world. When these words were spoken, quite a few people's eyes turned red, especially those Emperor clans. They were even more shocked. A sharp glint flashed in the eyes of the Gu family members. If they could take down the next extreme grade weapon, wouldn't that mean that they would have one more weapon? The gazes of the people from the Purple Mansion were also burning. The black tortoise in the sky seemed to have sensed these gazes and sneered. "I advise you not to attack because the number of extreme Dao weapons we have is not something you can imagine. More importantly, we have a complete artifact spirit so we can fully awaken at any time." *CK. The Zifu Mansion Lord's face instantly turned ugly. He no longer dared to have any other thoughts. The Gu family also shook their heads and sighed. The others were even more desperate. If what the other party said was true, then they wouldn't dare to make a move. Because no one could subdue him. Not even the Emperor clans could do it. Moreover, if they angered these extreme Dao weapons, they would probably join forces to destroy the hidden Emperor star. They might even destroy the 10,000 worlds. Alright, let's talk about the rules. Next, you will enter the extreme Dao world. There is the might of extreme Dao there. In other words, you can't bring in extreme Dao weapons, nor can you use some of the formations left behind by the Emperor. In short, the power of extreme Dao is suppressed inside. You can only rely on your own strength to fight. After entering, you will be randomly teleported. Of course, you will appear at the edge of the extreme Dao world. Your destination will be the center of the extreme Dao world. There is an extreme Dao valley there. Only by entering the extreme Dao valley will you have the qualifications to participate in the final battle. The extreme Dao world will be open for 10 years. In other words, you only have 10 years inside. In the extreme Dao world, other than the final ranking, there are other opportunities. For example, there are extreme Dao creatures formed by extreme Dao aura and great Dao crystals. Can you obtain them? It depends on your luck. Alright, now the extreme Dao world can be opened. All those who are prepared to participate, please enter the extreme Dao world. After the black tortoise finished speaking, he formed a seal with his palms. The mysterious runes behind him blossomed with light, forming an 8 trigram. It kept spinning, blooming with mysterious light. Then, it formed a mysterious door that seemed to be connected to an unknown world. Everyone felt a sense of fear from inside. It indeed had extreme Dao aura. It should be a world formed by a few extreme Dao weapons. After entering, they would probably be greatly suppressed. Let's go. Kun Pingzi soared into the sky. The yin and yang auras condensed behind him and turned into Kun Peng wings. He instantly rushed into the extreme Dao door. After him, the others also walked in one after another. Those who entered were all top-notch geniuses, as well as the terrifying sacred ancestors. Although the requirements were very high, countless creatures from all over the heavens and countless worlds gathered together at this moment, the number was also astonishing. Gu Feng, Huaqilin, Yao Guang, and the others entered one after another. Thunder King and the others also soared into the sky. On Mount Eternal's side, the first emissary said that after entering, they should think of a way to gather. Numbers are our advantage. After we gather, we can sweep the world. Don't worry, big brother, we know. The other emissaries also nodded. They also walked in. Silhouettes entered the extreme path gate one after another, while the others waited there. This was because they knew that when the final battle began, they would be able to see the scene of the final battle from outside. This was a battle that was hard to come by in 10,000 years. Naturally they would not leave. The Yi family members frowned. Why haven't they seen young Master Lin? Is he not here yet? Are they going to miss this time? The others were also discussing spiritedly. Where is Lin Xian? At this moment they turned their heads because they saw a sword light coming from behind. The sword light soared into the sky and a few figures stood on it. Look, it's Lin Wudi. He's really here. The Yi family members heaved a sigh of relief, while the Divine Union members cheered. Many of the Divine Union members came to watch the battle. Young Master Lin. The Eternal Life Temple Master hurriedly explained the rules to Lin Xian. Lin Xian nodded after listening. He said to Murong Qingqing and the others behind him, "Let's go." Chapter 53-51. The world was a little dark and there were thunderbolts circling in the void. A huge pressure was pressing down. Lin Xian felt that the bones in his body were constantly shaking. What a terrifying aura. He took a deep breath, and a sharp light burst out from his eyes as he resisted. Fortunately, he had often cultivated in the sword world, so it wasn't that he couldn't adapt to this pressure. At the same time he was also extremely shocked. Before he came in he had already received the news. This world was called the Extreme Dao World, and it was formed by the cooperation of several Extreme Dao weapons. The pressure now was the power of the Extreme Dao. Lin Xian was also shocked. He originally thought that the Extreme Dao weapons were all in the hands of the Great Emperor family. Other than the mysterious Emperor weapon in the Purple Mansion, no one else could have them. But now, he actually had so many Extreme Dao weapons. Moreover, they were like living beings that could survive for a long time. This really shocked him. Lin Xian sensed for a moment and found that the heaven-swallowing jar was indeed suppressed here. He couldn't summon it. He couldn't use the Great Dragon Sword Soul either. However, this didn't mean that he couldn't use the power of the Great Dragon Sword Soul. The Great Dragon Sword Soul had long merged with it. His every move carried an indestructible power, and his attack power far exceeded that of others. It was just that he couldn't use it like an Extreme Dao weapon. Although he couldn't use the power of the Extreme Dao, Lin Xian wasn't worried. He couldn't use it and neither could anyone else. He only needed to be careful not to be besieged by the 10 people from Mount Eternal. He wouldn't be in too much danger. Thinking of this, Lin Xian's eyes burst out with a cold light. This time he had to get first place. Behind the Extreme Dao World, there must be a few great emperors working together. I wonder what these great emperors will leave behind? Lin Xian looked around. There was no one around. He didn't know how big the Extreme Dao World was. Everyone was teleported away. At this moment he was alone. Taking a deep breath, Lin Xian walked forward. There was a mountain peak in front of him and it was also incomparably quiet. The aura inside the mountain peak was somewhat gloomy. After he walked up he didn't dare to be careless. Suddenly a leopard charged out from the front. It was extremely fast and with a swipe of its sharp claws, it tore apart heaven and earth. Lin Xian was surprised. He realized that the leopard looked too ordinary, like an ordinary wild beast. If they were outside no one would pay attention to them. However, the claw's power wasn't inferior to a peak-level saint. He snorted coldly, opened his Rinnegan, and immediately controlled the leopard's soul. The leopard stopped in midair and fell to the ground. The next moment he crawled to Lin Xian's side. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and probed the other party's soul. However, he discovered that the leopard's soul didn't seem to have much information. The other party only lived within the mountain range and had no idea what was going on outside the mountain range. What a strange world. From the looks of it, these should be demonic beasts specially made for extreme weapons. This made him even more shocked. This method was too strange. Moreover, this was only the edge of the Extreme Dao world. These demonic beasts all had the strength of a saint. If one were to head deeper, one would see how terrifying those demonic beasts would be. There would probably be a lot of Saint Ancestor level demonic beasts. If they appeared in groups he would probably run away automatically. However, he still had some gains because there was something he wanted in this mountain range. Great Dao Crystal. Come bring me there. Lin Xian sat on the leopard. The leopard brought him to search. It turned into a bolt of lightning and was very fast. They shuttled through the mountain forest. Not long after, Lin Xian heard the sound of fighting ahead. There was a sky-piercing sound. The shocking Dao light was incomparably terrifying as it pierced through heaven and earth. It was obvious that someone was fighting. The other person was using the extremely terrifying law of water. Monstrous waves swept in all directions. These were two Saint Ancestors. A young man and an old man. It was obvious that one was a genius and the other was an expert of the older generation. Lin Xian didn't know these two people. After all, the participants of the competition this time were the myriad worlds and billions of star worlds. It was impossible for Lin Xian to know both of them. The one who used the monstrous waves was an old man wearing a sea armor. He stood in the sea, riding the wind and waves with infinite power. He laughed loudly. "Young man, you want to compete with me? You're overestimating yourself. My 3,000 week water can sweep through everything. When I swept through the world back then, your grandfather wasn't even born yet." On the opposite side, a man was surrounded by saber light with earth-shattering power. His expression was solemn. "Old thing, you're old. This is a world that belongs to the young." He slashed out with his saber, and his power was incomparably majestic with an extremely terrifying aura. It made one's soul tremble. The battle between the two was earth-shattering. However, in the end the old man was more skilled. He used the 3,000 week water to injure the young saber saint. The saber saint vomited blood and flew backward. He tore through the void and disappeared. "Humph, young people can't do it." Sacred Lord Ruoshui sneered and walked forward. There was a fist-sized crystal there. It was a great Tao crystal with an extreme Tao aura on it. It was formed in the extreme Tao world and contained the mysterious power of the great Tao. It could improve their laws. Perhaps they could even feel a trace of power that surpassed the saint realm. Sacred Lord Ruoshui laughed out loud and grabbed forward. However, at this moment his pupils suddenly constricted. His body swayed and he dodged. At the place where he was originally standing, a sword chi cut through the sky. "Who is it?" Sacred Lord Ruoshui roared angrily. His eyes were cold. He slapped out with his palm. It was like a sea of death that tore apart the forest behind him. "Another young man. How dare you sneak attack me? Do you want to die? Break your arms and disappear from my sight. I'll spare your life." The old man shouted coldly. The one who rushed over from behind was naturally Lin Xian. He sat on the leopard and narrowed his eyes. He ignored the old man and stared at the stone in front of him. "Is this the great Tao crystal? It's indeed mysterious. I can feel that it's very useful to my laws." Lin Xian waved his hand, and a sword chi swept out toward the great Tao crystal in front of him. He wanted to envelop it. "You're courting death." Sacred Lord Ruoshui roared angrily. "How dare you snatch something that I want?" Just now there was a young man who thought that he was a top prodigy. He didn't take me seriously. But in the end he was easily injured by me. I didn't kill him because I was in a good mood. However, kid, you've angered me. I've decided to send you to hell today. Sacred Lord Ruoshui turned his head, and an extremely terrifying killing intent erupted from his eyes. Lin Xian had a strange expression. "You don't recognize me? It seems that you're not the Sacred Lord of the Hidden Emperor planet." He shook his head and sighed. If the people on the Hidden Emperor planet couldn't see him, he would have immediately fled. Chapter 53-52. The 3,000 week water transformed into a terrifying palm, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. Previously it was this attack that defeated the young sword saint. Now Holy Lord Ruoshui wanted to use this move to attack Lin Xian. Facing such a terrifying attack, Lin Xian didn't dodge at all. He took a step forward and the 9 suns divine fire on his body swept out. There were a few illusions of suns around him, and the terrifying flames burned everything. The drops of water near it were all burned, evaporating into clouds and spreading in all directions. How was that possible? Elder Ruoshui was stunned. Did his attack disappear before it even reached his opponent? What kind of flame was that? It was too terrifying. Lin Xian looked at him and shook his head slightly. "Is this your strength? Too weak." As he spoke, he used his finger like a sword and swung it. The Azura sword technique killed in one move. The seawater around Holy Lord Ruoshui was split apart. His forehead split open and he fell on his back. His body was split into 2 halves. Holy blood dyed the 9 heavens red. A soul escaped in fear and fled into the distance. However, in the next moment he found that there was an extremely terrifying power around him. The power of reincarnation. An eye floated above his head, causing his soul to kneel on the ground in fear. "Stop. I don't want the Tao crystal anymore. Please let me go." He was really too scared. He didn't expect the young man in front of him to be so powerful. He didn't have the strength to fight back in front of him. Is he really just a young man? Holy Lord Ruoshui couldn't believe it. Lin Xian snorted coldly. He continued to use his Rinnegan and the fire of reincarnation fell. It caused the other party's soul to disappear. Holy Lord Ruoshui died. Until his death, he didn't believe that he would be killed so easily. He kept the other party's storage ring. Lin Xian waved his hand and grabbed the Dao crystal. Feeling the mysterious power, Lin Xian began to comprehend it. The people outside were still waiting. Suddenly, a roar sounded. Damn it! The others turned their heads to look. Are those people from Ruoshui Holy Temple? What happened to them? The faces of the people from Ruoshui Sacred Hall turned ugly. A soul jade tablet in their hands cracked, indicating that one of their elders had fallen. Damn it, how long has it been since he entered and he's already fallen? Who was it that did it? Don't let me find out who it is. Otherwise I won't let him off. In the extreme Dao world, Lin Xian continued on his way. Arriving at the edge of the forest, the leopard crouched down, not daring to walk any further. There seemed to be some kind of power that made him fearful. Lin Xian also sighed. Although he had used his soul to control the other party, this was still the extreme Dao world. The might of the extreme Dao affected the other party. Lin Xian waved his hand. Forget it, you can go back. He had unsealed the other party's soul. The leopard prostrated on the ground and kowtowed 3 times respectfully. Then it turned around and entered the forest again, disappearing. Lin Xian, on the other hand, soared into the air and flew into the distance. As he flew, he comprehended the great Dao crystal. The aura on it was indeed terrifying. It could improve his laws. Lin Xian sensed that his laws of the sword seemed to have become sharper than before. Furthermore, yin and yang laws were even more mysterious and vast. One piece of great Dao crystal was not enough. Lin Xian grasped too many divine abilities. He still had physique and Rinnegan that needed to be improved. He felt that he had to gather great Dao crystals again. After flying like this for a day, Lin Xian came to a stop. This was because he discovered a sea in front of him. The sea cut off the path. There were quite a few figures on the seaside, standing there and looking at the sea ahead. They gnashed their teeth in anger. Damn it, this sea is too terrifying. After I entered, I felt that all the laws seemed to be going to disappear. I'm going to fall into the sea. It was indeed so. Previously, there were a few people who saw the sea and their figures flashed, wanting to rush over. But just flying halfway, they fell into the sea and then disappeared, never to come out again. The other people felt their scalps go numb. They had tried before. No matter what kind of divine ability they executed, it seemed to be unable to go over. At this moment, a woman walked out from the seaside. With a wave of her jade-like hand, she directly tore open a large crack in the void. The surrounding people were dumbfounded. This woman looked weak, but her strength was too terrifying. The woman was overjoyed. She directly flew into the spatial crack, wanting to leave. However, in the next moment her expression changed. Because she discovered that even if she entered the spatial crack, she still felt that her strength was disappearing. It was as if she was going to fall into the sea. She was so frightened that she hurriedly retreated. Relying on the strength of her physique, she forcefully retreated. Her expression became incomparably ugly. How could this be? Could it be that all of them were going to be stopped here? Are you from the Yi family? At this moment, a voice came from behind. The woman in front suddenly turned her head after hearing this. In the next moment she was overjoyed. Young Master Lin, it's you. Yiro was really too happy. She was very clear about Lin Xian's strength. The surrounding people frowned. They knew the Yi family, a great emperor family. But who was this man who rushed over? He actually made the genius of the Yi family so happy. Could it be that he was an expert? These people came from all over the universe. They had only heard of Lin Wudi's name, but not many had actually seen Lin Xian. So at this moment they didn't recognize him. Lin Xian nodded at Yiro and then said, "Why don't you go over?" Yiro said, "The sea was too strange. Once one went above it, all the laws would disappear and one would fall into the sea. Previously, 2 top geniuses had already fallen in and never came out again. It was so strange." Lin Xian frowned. He waved his hand, and the sword chi formed a clone and flew forward. As soon as it arrived above the sea, it instantly sank into the river. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. The surrounding people also shook their heads and sighed. They originally thought that the person who came was an expert, but now it seemed that he couldn't do it. The other party couldn't do anything. They didn't have much hope. "Young Master Lin, do you have any ideas?" Yiro asked. Lin Xian opened his right Rinnegan and looked forward. He discovered that there was an extremely mysterious power in the sea. This power could make the laws disappear. This was also the reason why the sages couldn't go over. It was indeed magical. It was Lin Xian's first time seeing this kind of power. As expected of the extreme Dao world. He wondered which extreme Dao weapon created this power. However, through Lin Xian's Rinnegan, he could see that this seemed to be the power of a formation. "Fairy, I don't think you have any hope. You can't go over it all." A man next to her said coldly. The other person also said, "Why don't we join forces? We might have a chance." The two of them looked at Yi Ro and the corners of their lips curled up, revealing handsome smiles. Chapter 53-53. However, they were destined to be disappointed because Yi Ro didn't care about them at all. She looked at Lin Xian with her beautiful eyes. Damn it, was she looking down on them? The two handsome geniuses beside her were instantly furious. Could it be that the two of them couldn't compare to the other party? They stared at Lin Xian with unkind expressions. Soon they sneered. They wanted to see how the other party was going to cross the sea of bitterness. Maybe they didn't even need to do anything, the other party would die in the sea of bitterness. Lin Xian took a deep breath, and his right eye emitted a terrifying light. Reincarnation tunnel. The ground cracked open and a palm appeared, carrying him forward. After coming up, Lin Xian waved his hand and brought Yi Ro up as well. The two of them flew towards the sea of bitterness. At this moment, the surrounding people were all focused on the other party. Could he succeed? The two handsome geniuses sneered. They didn't believe it. But not long after, they were stunned because they found that the hand had entered the sea of bitterness and still hadn't disappeared. They flew all the way with Lin Xian and finally crossed the sea of bitterness. No way, am I dreaming? He actually crossed the sea of bitterness. Heavens, how did he do it? What was that hand of earth? How could he be so powerful? Countless discussions could be heard. No wonder Yi Ro trusted him so much. It turned out that he was a terrifying expert. After the two handsome geniuses heard this, their faces became extremely ugly. Although the other party didn't attack them, it was a slap to their faces. Damn it, I don't believe it. The power of the sea of bitterness must have disappeared. Among them, a man in purple robes roared. He soared into the sky, and under his feet, a purple auspicious cloud quickly flew away. He instantly arrived above the sea of bitterness. No, he suddenly roared crazily because he found that the power of the cloud under his feet had disappeared. The laws on his body were also gone. He fell into the sea of bitterness and then disappeared. The other people's scalps went numb. It wasn't that the power of the sea of bitterness disappeared, but that they weren't strong enough to cross the sea of bitterness. The other man in blue was terrified. He didn't have the courage to try again. But he was unwilling. Young Master Lin, who was he? What did you say? His surname is Lin. What does he look like? At this moment, a voice came from behind. Everyone looked over, but there was nothing there. The void in front of them cracked open, and a man in a starry robe appeared. He stood in the void like a god of the void. Who are you? The blue-clothed man shouted angrily. A terrifying light flickered in his hand. Let me ask you, was it Lin Wudi who was here before? Hearing this, the surrounding people were stunned. However, Gu Feng waved his hand, and a starry sky hand suddenly appeared, grabbing the blue-clothed man. The blue-robed man shouted angrily. Sword chi surged from his body. He was also a young tycoon, but he had no power to fight back in front of the other party. Not long after, he was suppressed. Then ancient wind searched his soul. Very soon, his eyes erupted with a cold light. Lin Wudi, it really is you. With a roar, he charged forward. In an instant, he arrived at the sea of bitterness. In the next moment, when he felt the power of this sea, his expression changed. However, he quickly sneered and used the greater void teleportation. With a roar, he completely disappeared. When he reappeared, he had already passed through the sea of bitterness. How terrifying. The others were also shocked. This was also an expert. Someone said that he used the power of the void. He should be Gu Feng of the Gu family. Gu Feng was also an extremely terrifying genius. It was said that he was a double-crown king. They could only look up to such a person. No, who was the Lin Wudi that Gu Feng mentioned? Didn't you know? He was an existence who swept across the world and killed Hun Tian. He was an existence who could kill the double-crown king. So powerful. After hearing this, the blue-clothed man knelt on the ground in fear. Did he dare to challenge such a person before? At this moment, he didn't have the mood to continue. He wanted to go home. Go back to his family and never come out again. Why were there so many heaven-defying experts here? On the other side of the sea of bitterness, the hand of earth under Lin Xian's feet disappeared. He looked at Yi Ro beside him and said, "All right, go find your opportunity." Yi Ro nodded. "Thank you, Sir Lin." She looked at Lin Xian with incomparable gratitude. Then he turned around and soared into the air. Lin Xian went on his way again. A Rinnegan appeared above his head, constantly looking around. He used the heavenly Tao of reincarnation. Next, he found another 3 crystals of great Tao. Comprehending and cultivating, Lin Xian felt that his great Dao power was also slowly increasing. Apart from Lin Xian, the others were also frantically collecting Dao crystals. Thunder was still circling between heaven and earth. The Thunder King swept in all directions. There were two demonic beasts in front of him. These two demonic beasts were also surrounded by the power of extreme Dao. They were very terrifying. However, the Thunder King was also incomparably terrifying. After a great battle, he killed the two demonic beasts. He obtained two Dao crystals. On the other side, Gu Feng looked for Lin Xian but couldn't find him. His expression was cold, but he also found two Dao crystals. He clenched his fists and raised his spatial laws with all his might. He even used his spatial great divine ability, turning all of the void within tens of millions of miles into his avatar. The spatial avatar went to search for Dao crystals together. He wanted to obtain the most Dao crystals to improve his spatial great Dao. This time he wanted to surpass everyone. Apart from him, there was the Fire Qilin, Mount Eternal, Murong Qingqing, and other prodigies. There were also those older generation experts who were all making moves crazily. In a blink of an eye, half a month passed. Everyone had long left the initial edge. They gradually set off towards the Central Valley. This extreme Dao world was also very terrifying. Furthermore, this world far exceeded the world that they knew. The further in they went, the more terrifying the aura of extreme Dao. The pressure on them also became greater. Therefore, everyone's advancing speed was not very fast. Furthermore, everyone also knew that they had 10 years and would not easily go out. In this half a month, Lin Xian also collected along the way. His Rinnegan similarly became stronger and stronger. At this moment, he used the Rinnegan to control the two great demonic beasts, to search for Dao crystals. The two great demonic beasts helped him find 6 Dao crystals, making Lin Xian rejoiced. Lin Xian raised the power of the Rinnegan with all his might. When walking forward, the two demonic beasts similarly prostrated on the ground, not daring to leave their own domain. Lin Xian similarly let them go and continued walking. 2 days later, Lin Xian frowned. Through the Rinnegan, he sensed that there were people fighting ahead. Moreover, the number of people was not small. When he sensed the power of one side, his expression instantly turned gloomy. A trace of biting cold killing intent appeared in his eyes. Chapter 53-54. There was a canyon in front of them. There were many people standing in the canyon and they were divided into 2 sides. One side had 9 people while the other side only had 1 person. However, this one person suppressed 9 people. Out of the 9 people, 3 of them were injured. At this moment, their faces were extremely ugly. Looking at the armored man in front of them, their eyes were filled with fear. The armored man in front was the 10th emissary of Mount Eternal. He sneered, "You guys are really trash. Now all of you should obediently get out of this world. Otherwise I'll make you guys die without a burial ground." "Damn it, what?" The people on the other side roared crazily. The 10th emissary sneered, "Because I'm stronger than you guys. None of you are my match." Although these 9 people were not from the same sect, they were all from the Hidden Emperor planet and knew each other. One of them was Huolongnu. Huolongnu frowned and said, "The 10 emissaries of Mount Eternal are very terrifying. We can't beat them. Let's quickly leave. If necessary, we can give up on the great Dao crystal." Hearing this, the surrounding people frowned. Someone said, "Aren't you overestimating the morale of others and destroying your own prestige?" Another woman also said, "We're not his match in a one-on-one battle. However, with so many of us working together, can't we beat him? If you're afraid, then run away." That woman said to the surrounding people, "Everyone, let's work together." She was a woman from the Wind clan. She couldn't be considered a young genius but a middle-aged one. At this moment, Tian stood up and worked together with the others. Huolongnu sighed when she saw this scene. Others didn't know the strength of Mount Eternal, but she knew. She was from the Divine Union. Lin Xian had specifically told her before coming. It was best not to fight with people from Mount Eternal because they were all double crown champions. However, no matter what Huolongnu said, the surrounding people didn't listen. Huolongnu had no choice but to retreat. If necessary, she would leave on her own. The sacred master of the Wind clan was anxious. As for the others, the 3 injured ones also stood up. The 8 of them prepared to attack the 10th emissary together. The 10th emissary sneered, "Do you think you're my match by working together? How naive. Since you aren't willing to submit, then die." In the next instant, a terrifying power erupted from his body like a boundless sea. The 9 heavens, 10 earths were shattered. The Wind clan's people's pupils shrank. Not good, they quickly retreated. However, it was too late. The 10th envoy took out a battle hammer and threw it forward. In an instant the 8 people were sent flying. The 3 injured people in front instantly turned into a bloody mist. The bodies of the others also split apart. The scene was extremely shocking. 8 divine ancestors were unable to defeat the 10th emissary. The people of Mount Eternal were truly terrifying. When Fire Dragon Lady saw this, her face turned pale. She shook her head and sighed. Previously, she didn't really believe that the people of Mount Eternal were powerful, but Lin Xian had warned her. She trusted Lin Xian unconditionally, so she was glad that she didn't make a move. On the other hand, his men had gone mad and became terrified. Damn it, why is he so powerful? Run. The woman from the Wind Clan was the first to escape, but in the next moment, a black hand pressed down from the sky. She was sent flying. Her expression became terrified. No. Save me. However, the others were also desperately trying to escape. No one would save her. In the next moment she was killed by the battle hammer. The others were also terrified. The Wind Clan's divine ancestor was also extremely terrifying, but she still couldn't block the other party's attack. Not only that, the surrounding people realized that the world had been sealed by the inextinguishable battle intent. They couldn't escape at all. Even Fire Dragon Lady's expression changed. She realized that she couldn't escape either. At this moment, the 10th envoy looked at her. What a beautiful woman. As he spoke, he grabbed out with his palm. The black palm carried terrifying power. Fire Dragon Lady also roared angrily and struck out with monstrous flames. However, she was no match for the other party. She was knocked back and vomited blood. In the next moment, her face turned pale. The palm enveloped her. At this critical moment, a sword chi suddenly rushed out of Fire Dragon Lady's body. The sword chi was like a giant dragon, blasting away the big black hand. The 10th envoy withdrew his palm. His palm split open and there was a crack on it. In the next moment his face turned completely cold. Are you courting death? At the same time he was also surprised that the other party had such power in her body. This wasn't her power. The surrounding people were also stunned. They looked at Fire Dragon Lady as though they saw hope. Someone said, Fire Dragon Lady, please save our lives. We are willing to give you precious treasures. Someone shouted, she's indeed a genius of the Divine Union. She's really strong. Are you from the Divine Union? The 10th envoy's face turned cold. He had naturally heard of the Divine Union. This was the union created by Lin Wuti. Was she one of Lin Wuti's people? A cold killing intent appeared in his eyes when he thought of Lin Wuti. This was because Lin Wuti had injured them and even stolen their limelight. His eyes shone brightly. So you're one of Lin Wuti's people. Then I'll capture you. Lin Wuti dares to go against Mount Eternal. Everyone related to him must die. He took a step forward and the killing intent on his body became even more terrifying. Fire Dragon Lady's face turned extremely ugly. The sword aura just now was one that Lin Xian had left in their bodies before they came. It was used to save their lives at critical moments. However, there was only one. After it was used up, there was no more. Given her strength, she couldn't compete with the other party at all. As she was thinking about it, the 10th envoy attacked again. Fire Dragon Lady was engulfed in another wave of black flames. It was extremely terrifying with black flames on it. Fire Dragon Lady's face was pale. She used all her strength but still couldn't block it. She looked at the black palm that was getting closer and closer. Was she going to die? The others were also in despair. It seemed like no one was a match for the other party. At this moment, a sword light streaked across the sky and attacked the black palm. Not only that, but this sword was also aimed at the 10th envoy. The surrounding people were shocked. Who was so bold? Who dared to challenge the 10th envoy? A roar resounded between heaven and earth. This sword seemed to have turned into eternity. It actually split the black palm apart with a single sword. Not only that, but one of the 10th envoy's arms was also chopped off. The 10th envoy screamed and retreated. His expression turned sinister as he let out a crazy roar. Who is it? Get out here. His roar was earth-shattering. He was really mad that someone could actually injure him. Chapter 53-55. You don't have the right to kill me in all directions. A figure landed between heaven and earth. Everyone looked up and was dumbfounded. Fire Dragon Girl was also surprised. She felt like she had survived a disaster. At that moment she thought that she was definitely going to die. She didn't expect to be saved. When she saw the person who came, she cried out in surprise. Young master, it's you. The person who came was Lin Xian. Damn it, it's you. The 10th emissary's expression also became extremely ugly. His broken arm had recovered again. However, he didn't dare to be careless. Lin Wuti had defeated the 9th emissary before. He had even injured the 7th emissary. Such a person was very terrifying. He was a double crown king powerhouse, so he naturally didn't dare to be careless. You dare to attack the people around me. Tell me, how do you want to die? Lin Xian asked coldly. The 10th emissary's pupils constricted. To be honest, his rationality told him that it was best to retreat now. But his pride didn't allow him to do so. Who was he? The emissary who walked out of Mount Eternal was incomparably powerful. Previously, the 8 of them weren't his match even when they joined forces. Now, if he was scared away by one person, if word got out, his reputation would probably be ruined. Therefore, he absolutely wouldn't allow himself to escape. Kill. With an angry roar, the 10th emissary charged out. In the past half a month, he had also obtained the Great Path Crystal and his nomological strength had increased. He didn't believe that he couldn't contend with the other party. The warhammer in his hand was like a mountain pressing down. The surrounding people were all sent flying. They couldn't contend with it. Lin Xian snorted coldly. He used his finger like a sword and slashed out. The sword technique returned to its original form and turned into an arc. It collided with the warhammer and sent it flying. The 10th emissary kept retreating. His hand that was holding the warhammer was covered in cracks. It was obvious that he couldn't withstand this power. You're too weak. You're not my match at all. Lin Xian stood with his hands behind his back. Submit. Damn it, Lin Wuti, how dare you underestimate me? The 10th emissary roared crazily. A hint of determination appeared in his eyes. I'll let you see. My most powerful means. The inextinguishable fighting spirit on his body continued to erupt, and his body suddenly grew larger. He transformed into an indomitable giant, and the war hammer in his hand danced non-stop. Strike of the war god. With a roar, the power of the attack was much stronger than before. The surrounding people also felt their scalps go numb. In the face of such a terrifying attack, could Lin Wuti withstand it? It wasn't that they didn't believe in Lin Xian, but the 10th emissary was too terrifying. It made them think that the war god had descended. What shocked them even more was that Lin Xian didn't seem to be making a move. In the face of such an attack, Lin Xian should have used his powerful swordsmanship to counter it. However, Lin Xian didn't. Instead, he stood there with his hands behind his back. Was the other party going to give up resisting? The 10th emissary laughed maniacally. It seemed that he had thought too highly of the other party. In the face of his strongest attack, his opponent seemed to have no strength to resist. Thinking of this, he laughed maniacally and attacked with the battle god. Young master, be careful. Behind him, Fire Dragon exclaimed. Lin Xian smiled. It didn't matter. He couldn't hurt him. Lin Xian indeed didn't use his swordsmanship, but it didn't mean that he had given up attacking. An extremely terrifying light burst out from his eyes. Reincarnation, Heavenly Path. A Rinnegan appeared in the sky and looked down. At this moment, everyone's soul felt a huge suppression. The 10th emissary's pupils constricted. Not good. He was careless. He thought that Lin Xian didn't use his swordsmanship because he was afraid. He didn't expect that the other party would use a soul pupil technique. In a panic, he tried to block it. However, how could he block the Rinnegan and Heavenly Path of Reincarnation? It was too terrifying. In an instant, it pierced through his soul and his huge body stopped. Then he fell to the ground on his back. His aura rapidly weakened. The surrounding people were stunned. He was dead. It was a one-shot kill. They were trembling in fear. That was the 10th emissary. What a powerful and terrifying double champion, but now he was killed by Lin Xian in an instant. What kind of eyes were those? It was too terrifying. The 10th emissary felt that his soul was about to scatter. No. His eyes were filled with fear as he roared uneasily. At this moment, a talisman paper appeared between his eyebrows and enveloped him. In the next moment, the talisman paper disappeared. Was he dead? Everyone was shocked. However, Lin Xian's brows were tightly knitted together. No, the other party had escaped. His reincarnation gaze pierced through heaven and earth, but he found that the other party seemed to have really escaped. He left this world. Outside the extreme path world, in the secluded heaven, those powerhouses were waiting. Suddenly they found that the void cracked open and a figure fell down. What was going on? Someone came out. It shouldn't be. Who was it? They had never heard of anyone who could come out of the extreme path world. They all looked over. In the next moment, they exclaimed because it was the 10th emissary of Mount Eternal. After the 10th emissary came out, he roared to the sky. Damn it, damn Lin Wuti, I will never let you go. What? Was it Lin Wuti who did it? He eliminated the 10th emissary. Countless exclamations sounded, and the people of the Emperor clan also frowned. Even if he was eliminated, he was still dead. How could the other party come out? The great elder of Mount Eternal's expression changed. Damn it, what was going on? Did you use all the talismans? He knew that the 10 emissaries had the human sovereign between their eyebrows. It was something left for them to save their lives. Now that the other party was teleported out, it was very likely that he had used his final trump card. The 10th emissary gritted his teeth and was unwilling to accept this. He had no choice, he was almost killed. The great elder of Mount Eternal's pupils constricted. Was Lin Wudi already so terrifying? The 10th emissary said that he was careless and was ambushed by him. Otherwise he definitely wouldn't have lost. Although he said that, he still felt fear. That glance just now made him feel as if he was facing a god. The others were also shocked. Lin Wudi was inside. Had his strength increased again? It seemed that he had easily defeated the 10th emissary. They didn't know how powerful he was now. The great elder of Mount Eternal also gritted his teeth. Don't worry, he won't continue to be arrogant. Although the 10th emissary was defeated, they still had 9 people. Especially the first 3 emissaries, they were extremely terrifying. Lin Wudi definitely couldn't contend against them. Inside the Extreme Path realm, the surrounding people were still in a dream state. They didn't expect that the danger would be resolved just like that. Young master, are you alright? Behind him, Fire Dragon Girl ran over with a face full of concern. Lin Xian smiled and said, "He can't hurt me." As he spoke, Lin Xian sent out another sword energy into Fire Dragon Girl's body. You have to be careful in the future. Fire Dragon Girl nodded. She wanted to follow Lin Xian. However, Lin Xian said that everyone had their own opportunities. You have to find them yourself. Alright, I understand. Fire Dragon Girl was a little disappointed, but she also knew that Lin Xian was doing this for her own good. Along the way she was like a flower growing in a greenhouse. In the end she had to be independent. Lin Xian's figure flashed and floated away, leaving the others behind. Those people hurriedly bowed towards the void. They were incomparably grateful. Chapter 53-56. On Lin Xian's side, he killed the 10th emissary in one glance and left, shocking countless people. In another mountain range, a great battle was also taking place. However, there were no spectators at this moment. However, this battle was also very terrifying. One of the 2 sides of the battle was the terrifying 8th emissary in armor. The other person was a figure surrounded by multicolored light. She was as mysterious as a god. She was the born Taoism aptitude. The 8th emissary held a pagoda in his hand. It kept growing bigger and bigger, sweeping in all directions. However, the born Taoism aptitude was even more terrifying. He directly pushed back the 8th emissary with one palm. It was as if no one could defeat him. Damn it. The 8th emissary roared crazily. He was also extremely shocked. He didn't expect the other party's strength to be so strong. It was completely beyond his imagination. I don't believe that I will lose. As a powerhouse from Mount Eternal, he couldn't bear it. He crazily attacked again. The 2 collided, and the sound of the sky falling and the earth cracking rang out. The surroundings were shattered. One could imagine how terrifying this power was. However, what was even more shocking was that the born Taoism aptitude was not injured at all. He resisted this black pagoda with his bare hands. Not only that, his palms formed a divine seal and sent the pagoda flying with one palm. The 8th emissary also spat out blood and flew backward. A crack appeared on his body. How was this possible? This Tao seal made him feel terrified. His body was pierced through. He used the power of immortality and recovered his body. However, he didn't continue to fight. Now, the other party was so terrifying just by relying on the strength of his body. If the other party used any weapons, he was no match for him at all. Taoism aptitude, just you wait. There are many experts in Mount Eternal. One day I will kill you. He ran very fast. However, the born Taoism aptitude rose into the air. She formed a seal with her hands and attacked 3 times in a row. The 8th emissary's body was torn apart and turned into a bloody mist. He was enveloped by the pagoda and fled in panic. He was seriously injured. The born Taoism aptitude stood in the void. She watched the scene of him fleeing and didn't attack again. The other party was no match for her at all. She didn't care at all. After beating the other party away, the born Taoism aptitude once again searched for the great path. On the other side, Lin Xian set off once again. He was prepared to cross the sea of bitterness once again. Although his strength had increased compared to before, he was not satisfied. His goal was to win the Triple Crown. However, from the looks of it, he was still a long way away from the Triple Crown. In that case he would have to increase his cultivation first. Lin Xian wanted to reach the saint level. In this way his strength would also undergo a tremendous change. As he thought of this, Lin Xian hurriedly searched for great Dao crystals. The power of reincarnation in his eyes swept out and he finally found another sea of misery. The sea of bitterness was boundless. This time, the power of the sea of bitterness seemed to be even more terrifying than before. Lin Xian used reincarnation and said. The hand of reincarnation started to shake violently. He shouted coldly, and the eye of reincarnation shone brightly once again. The phantoms of the 6 worlds appeared, and he instantly left the sea of sufferings like a meteor. At this moment, 3 figures approached from behind. A woman, a middle-aged man, and an old man. The woman was dressed in green. She looked forward and rubbed her eyes. It can't be, right? I didn't see wrongly, right? Just now, a figure seemed to have crossed the sea of bitterness. The middle-aged man beside her shook his head. How was that possible? The sea of bitterness was boundless. When we crossed the first sea of bitterness, it was already so difficult. Who could cross it so easily? You must have seen wrongly. The woman shook her head. I did see it. She looked at the old man again. The old man narrowed his eyes and said, could it be that the power of this sea of bitterness was not as strong as before? Let me test it out. He was also a terrifying divine ancestor. He happened to be 5,000 years old this year and could participate. His strength could be said to be very terrifying. With a stomp of his foot, he instantly arrived above the sea of bitterness like a phantom. But in the next moment he screamed and retreated. His expression became terrified. Damn it, the power of this sea of bitterness was even more terrifying than the first one. No one could cross it easily. The woman in green's expression also changed. She knew how terrifying this old man's strength was. Even he suffered a loss which meant that no one could cross it easily. But she clearly saw it just now. Could it be that she was really seeing wrongly? The woman in green could only shake her head helplessly. Other than Lin Xian, some experts also started to cross the second sea of bitterness. For example, the fire Qilin had crossed the second sea of bitterness. At this moment he came to a mountain range. There was a demonic beast in front of him. It was an eagle, a black eagle. It spread its wings and floated in the air. It roared and tore the 9 heavens with its sharp claws. The fire Qilin roared and turned into a Qilin. It was as if a god was burning the 9 heavens as it contended with the eagle. The 2 of them exchanged 5 moves. The fire Qilin was forced back and his blood was boiling. How was that possible? How could this eagle be so terrifying? No, there was a mysterious rune between the eagle's brows. It was an extreme Dao rune. It was completely different from the demonic beasts he had encountered before. Those demonic beasts were formed in the extreme Dao world, but they did not have such extreme Dao runes. Although they were powerful, they were only at the saint level. He could easily kill them. However, the eagle in front of him was definitely at the saint level. Moreover, it was extremely terrifying among the saint lords. There was an extreme Dao aura on the eagle. Damn it. After a great battle, the fire Qilin turned around and left. However, the black eagle roared at the sky and condensed extreme Dao power. Its sharp claws slashed over. The fire Qilin was scratched and cracks appeared on his body. He was finally frightened. He used his power and quickly fled. In the end, he fled for 3 days before he escaped the pursuit. Hiding in the vast mountains, the fire Qilin's expression became incomparably ugly. Originally, he thought that he was the double champion and had found many Dao crystals here. With his strength increasing, he could ignore everything. But now reality gave him a ruthless slap. This world was far more terrifying than he imagined. There were even some demonic beasts with extreme Dao power that he could not contend with at all. If he was outside, he could use extreme Dao weapons to contend with them. But here he could not use extreme Dao power at all. Therefore he could only admit defeat. It seemed that he absolutely could not easily provoke these demonic beasts with extreme Dao runes in the future. Behind another waterfall, the dark red divine dragon was also gnashing his teeth. He also had several wounds on his body. Damn it, why were the demonic beasts here so terrifying? Very clearly he also encountered a demonic beast with extreme Dao runes. Originally he thought that it was an opportunity to destroy the other party. Who would have thought that he would be chased by the other party for 10 days? He finally escaped with great difficulty and almost died in the hands of a demonic beast. Chapter 53-57. Lin Xian continued to search for Dao crystals. This time he found 2 at a time. This made him very happy. At this moment an angry shout came from afar. Put them down. Several figures flew over from behind and in front of him. The auras of these 4 figures were very terrifying. They were the 4 older generation sacred ancestors. They shouted angrily, "Get lost, young man." One of them waved his sleeve, bringing about a monstrous storm. Lin Xian slashed out with his sword, tearing the storm apart. In the next moment he picked up the 2 Dao crystals. Damn it! The 4 sacred ancestors shouted crazily, but Lin Xian's lips curled up into a smile. He threw the great Dao crystal into the 9 heavens. Good boy, you're quite honest. The 4 of them charged into the sky. Get lost. The 2 of them fought a monstrous storm and the other 2 also shouted angrily. The 2 sides fought. They didn't know what was good for them. Lin Xian sneered. He stood with his hands behind his back and didn't leave, because he felt that there was a terrifying demonic beast lurking in the surroundings. A cloud condensed in the sky, then turned into a large cloud hand and fell from the sky. With a boom, the 2 sacred ancestors were instantly blasted into a bloody mist. The other 2 also vomited blood and flew backward. They were torn apart. Damn it, what kind of demonic beast was this? The 2 injured sacred ancestors were terrified. They recovered their bodies and their faces were full of shock, because they found that the other 2 sacred ancestors had been killed. It killed 2 great sage ancestors with a claw. This demonic beast was too terrifying. Even Lin Xian's brows were tightly knitted together. So powerful. He found that this was also beyond his expectations. The cloud turned into a demonic beast, roared at the sky, and swallowed the 2 Dao crystals in an instant. Then he narrowed his eyes. Lin Xian's face darkened. After spitting it out, he punched toward the sky as if turning into a golden crow, sweeping through heaven and earth, and blasting toward the cloud beast. The cloud mist beast was hit and its body was covered in mist. In the next moment, it was furious and roared toward the sky. Lin Xian, however, sent out even more golden crows to attack. Not good, does this guy want to die? Don't drag us along. As for the other 2 who were injured, they recovered and turned to flee. But it was too late. The cloud mist beast looked up at the sky and waved its sharp claws, tearing the 2 who were running away into pieces. Then he clawed at Lin Xian. Lin Xian roared furiously as he fought back. With a boom he was blasted back. What terrifying claws. The light of reincarnation appeared in Lin Xian's eyes as he observed carefully. The flowing cloud beast did not have a fixed shape, but it did have a pair of eyes. Above the eye, there was a mysterious rune that carried an extremely powerful aura. How terrifying. This was completely different from the demonic beasts he had encountered before. The other party contained an enormous amount of power. No wonder he was so terrifying that he could kill 4 sacred ancestors so easily. The flowing cloud beast was even more shocked. In its eyes, the sacred leaders were like ants. However, the young man in front of it was not dead and he was not even injured. It was even more shocked. At the same time it was also angered. It rode on a cloud and charged downward. Lin Xian soared into the sky and charged toward the 9 heavens. 9 stars appeared behind him and kept spinning. 9-star sword technique. 1 star after another soared into the sky and fought with the cloud mist beast. The cloud mist beast's body was pierced, but it was not injured at all. However, its attack could threaten Lin Xian. Lin Xian's face was cold. He used the invincible power of the dragon. The sword chi became extremely sharp. This time, it pierced through the flowing cloud beast's body, and the flowing cloud beast felt pain. It roared crazily and its eyes instantly turned red. The rune between its eyebrows kept spinning, and an extremely powerful aura spread out. It roared at the sky, and a terrifying killing intent pierced through heaven and earth. Its entire body charged over. At this moment, even the people and monsters in the distance were so scared that they all prostrated on the ground. They looked into the distance in horror. What was happening there? Lin Xian also roared and used the sword chi to the extreme. Now, only the invincible power could restrain the other party. Otherwise, the other party's aura would be too much of a threat to him. Cracks appeared on the 9-yang divine body. Lin Xian used the Tai Chi diagram to envelop his body, and at the same time he used the sword chi to attack. After a great battle, heaven and earth shattered as if it was the end of the world. No one dared to come within millions of miles. Although the great dragon sword soul could not be used, Lin Xian could use its power. Every sword chi was extremely sharp, and it caused the cloud mist beast to be severely injured. It let out a terrified roar and after hundreds of moves, it fled in despair. Trying to escape? Lin Xian roared angrily. He would not give the other party a chance. He felt an extremely powerful aura from the other party. If he swallowed this power, then it would greatly improve his laws and cultivation. In this way he would be one step closer to the Saint Lord realm. Heavenly Reincarnation Tao. In the sky, a pair of godlike eyes appeared, and a palm stretched out from his eyes and fell from the sky. The hand of the sky. Boom. The cloud mist beast's body was sent flying, and it let out a painful roar. The sword chi on Lin Xian's body kept rushing out, like thousands of swords returning to their origin. He turned into a yin-yang diagram and rotated in the sky. The yin-yang energy turned into yin-yang swords and kept falling. Reincarnation Dao. Lin Xian attacked again. The ground cracked, and the endless power of reincarnation turned into the gate of reincarnation. It was as if it was going to swallow the cloud mist beast. In the end, the cloud mist beast screamed and was killed. The extreme Dao rune between his brows slowly disappeared, and a terrifying extreme Dao aura swept out in all directions. Lin Xian was delighted. He waved his sleeve and kept all the extreme Dao aura. At the same time he opened the sword world. He would not allow any of them to escape. In the distance, those people looked up at the sky and saw extreme Dao aura appearing one after another in the sky. Every one of them made people jealous. This was a power even more terrifying than the Dao crystal. Go quickly. In an instant, more than a dozen figures rose into the sky and flew towards the extreme Dao aura. But when they were halfway there, they realized that the 7 extreme Dao auras had all disappeared. Had they been taken away by someone? They were unwilling to accept this. They flew quickly. Lin Xian sensed that someone was coming. He took out the Hellfire Dragon sword and swung it with both hands. This attack had the power to sweep the world. Get lost. Half of the people were sent flying by this sword, and the others were forced back by that shocking roar. What kind of expert was this? Their scalps went numb and they did not dare to go forward. Lin Xian rose into the air and stood above the 9 heavens as he said coldly, "You want to compete with me for the treasure?" Those people looked up at the sky. When they saw that it was Lin Xian, their scalps went numb. They all shook their heads. Young Master Lin misunderstood. After saying that, they turned around and fled. Chapter 53-58. Lin Xian left this place and came to a safe place. He went into seclusion and began to cultivate. After entering the sword world, Lin Xian began to absorb the 7 extreme Dao Qi with all his might. A year later, Lin Xian finished absorbing all the extreme Dao Qi. His eyes erupted with an intense light. His cultivation had increased a lot compared to before. However, Lin Xian clenched his fists. He felt that it was not enough. If he could kill another demon beast with an extreme Dao rune, then Lin Xian would be able to break through to the Saint Lord realm. Such a demon beast was extremely rare and difficult to find. More importantly, such a demon beast was extremely terrifying. Even Lin Xian had to use all of his means in order to be able to kill it. Following that, Lin Xian began to search for such a demon beast. After more than a year, Lin Xian finally found a second demon beast with an extreme Dao rune. This demon beast was a shark in the Sea of Bitterness. The Sea of Bitterness was already extremely terrifying. Once one entered the Sea of Bitterness, their power and laws would disappear, let alone fighting in the Sea of Bitterness. Lin Xian used the reincarnation path and used the power of reincarnation to resist the power of the Sea of Bitterness. In the next moment he stretched out a large hand. The large golden hand carried boundless flames and directly pulled out the shark. He threw it into the 9 heavens. Lin Xian charged over. The shark roared crazily. There was an extreme Dao rune between his brows. The extreme Dao aura on his body was incomparably terrifying. In this place he was the overlord. No one was his match. But now, someone actually dared to challenge him. He could not tolerate it. "And you dare to challenge me? Do you want to die?" It opened its mouth and spat out seawater that filled the sky. It turned into a terrifying light that pierced through heaven and earth. Lin Xian roared and used all his firepower to fight. Yin-yang diagram, Rinnegan, all sorts of sword chi as well as a powerful divine body, constantly attacked. The shark was forced to retreat. Go. For a moment, it could not return to the Sea of Bitterness. It roared crazily. He was enraged to the extreme, and the extreme path rune between his eyebrows suddenly erupted. He turned into a bolt of lightning and rushed over, crashing into Lin Xian. Half of Lin Xian's body was shattered, but he seized the opportunity and pierced his opponent with his sword. At the same time, Rinnegan crazily attacked the opponent's soul. It was a difficult battle, but Lin Xian finally managed to kill his opponent. He had obtained another 7 strands of extreme Dao energy. Lin Xian was overjoyed and put them all away. His shattered body also began to heal. This time, Lin Xian directly entered the Sea of Bitterness to cultivate. This was the safest place. Lin Xian once again returned to the sword world to heal his injuries. After using the divine water of life to repair it, Lin Xian began to absorb the new extreme Dao energy. This time Lin Xian used more than a year's time to finally absorb all of the extreme Dao Qi. The aura on his body was also constantly erupting. Lin Xian's eyes revealed a cold light. He was about to break through. He broke through in the sword world and received the impact of thunder. At the same time, a few more people came from outside. They wanted to cross this sea of bitterness. There were about a dozen people who came. Half of them were seniors and the other half were young geniuses. After these few years, their expressions had become solemn. The aura on their bodies had also become more and more terrifying. Too many people had been eliminated in the past few years, and the remaining people could be said to be strong. They came to the surroundings of the sea of bitterness and looked around. They sucked in a breath of cold air. There had been a great battle here, and there were still remnants of a terrifying aura. Heavens, what kind of battle was this? I feel like this sword strike can split open a world. It's not just one world, it makes me feel like several worlds can be split open. If it wasn't for the suppression of the extreme path martial tool, it would have been shattered long ago. Everyone discussed animatedly. Other than the biting cold sword chi, they also felt a terrifying aura of the extreme path surrounding them. Heavens, could it be that there are demon beasts with extreme power roaming around nearby? They were terrified. Over the years they had also sensed quite a few demon beasts. They could still contend against and even kill ordinary demon beasts. However, there were some demon beasts with a rune between their eyebrows. They had seen it before and were unable to contend against it. A single claw could tear a sacred master into pieces. Many people had fallen because of it. In the hands of such a demon beast, the others had been hunted down and killed. At this moment, when they felt this aura, they were also shocked. A sacred master walked over and said, "From the looks of it, it should be a battle from a few years ago. Perhaps that demon beast had left long ago." They didn't know who was so unlucky to be killed by this demon beast. Everyone discussed animatedly. At this moment, another crack appeared. Everyone looked up and exclaimed in the next moment. It was Gu Feng. Only this person could have such spatial divine abilities. After Gu Feng arrived, he narrowed his eyes when he sensed the aura around him. A demon beast with a rune? It was indeed terrifying. He had experienced it before. All of a sudden, her pupils shrank as she sensed another wave of energy. He waved his hand and grabbed the dried blood on the ground. He carefully sensed it. What powerful blood, terrifying power, and the aura of flames. This was the 9-yang divine blood. Gu Feng was shocked. Only the 9-yang divine body could produce blood. Only Lin Xian had the 9-yang divine body. In other words, Lin Xian had fought here and was injured. That's great. Gu Feng was overjoyed. According to his guess, Lin Xian was unlucky. He encountered a demon beast with an extreme path rune and fought with it before escaping with heavy injuries. Moreover, this should have happened within a year or two. After being injured by an extreme path rune, even the other party would find it difficult to fully recover. This meant that the other party should be injured now. If he could find the other party, then his chances of killing the other party would be greater. Thinking of this, Gu Feng roared excitedly. That's great. Lin Wudi, let's see how you die this time. The surrounding people were shocked. They had naturally heard of Lin Wudi's name. Could it be that the one who had fought here was Lin Wudi? Lin Wudi fought with a terrifying demon beast and escaped with heavy injuries. It was too unbelievable. Countless people exclaimed. Gu Feng, who was above, had already begun to search for clues. He wanted to chase after the other party. Soon he frowned. Because he found that those clues disappeared when he reached the Sea of Bitterness. Did the other party cross the Sea of Bitterness? Thinking of this, he snorted coldly and prepared to cross the Sea of Bitterness. Although the Sea of Bitterness ahead was more terrifying than before, with his current strength, he was not afraid at all. The current him was already a double-crown king. Moreover, in the past few years, he had found many great path crystals to improve his spatial law. Lin Wudi, this time I will definitely not let you escape. Gu Feng tore open the void and was about to cross the Sea of Bitterness. Chapter 53-59. Seeing this scene, the surrounding people were frightened. Could it be that the demonic beast was still there? Gu Feng's pupils contracted as well. If that was the case, he didn't dare to resist. His figure swayed as he retreated. This palm strike pierced through the void, but his face soon sank. Gu Feng realized that it wasn't a demonic beast, but a human's hand. The others also noticed it and started discussing. Who was it? Was it a demonic beast in human form? Everyone looked carefully. A figure walked out from the sea of misery. Gu Feng's pupils contracted. Lin Wudi. It's you? He was really shocked. The surrounding people were also stunned. Lin Wudi? This person was the legendary Lin Wudi. They looked carefully. How did he walk out from the sea of misery? Heavens, this Lin Wuti is too terrifying. The sea of misery was boundless. Countless people didn't dare to enter it. Once they entered the sea, they would lose their strength and loss. They wouldn't be able to resist. But now, Lin Wuti completely ignored this power. Everyone was frightened and their scalps went numb. He was indeed a legendary person. That's right, the person who walked out was indeed Lin Xian. After he killed the rune demonic beast, he came to the sea of misery to cultivate and absorb the extreme Dao aura. After more than a year, he finally succeeded in breaking through. Right now he was already a saint. His strength and cultivation had undergone an earth-shattering change compared to before. Although he hadn't reached the Triple Crown champion, he was still an extremely terrifying existence among the Double Crown champions. When Lin Xian woke up from the sea of misery, he heard Gu Feng's voice above the sea of misery. Gu Feng actually wanted to kill him and wanted to take his life while he was injured. A trace of biting cold killing intent appeared in his eyes. This Gu Feng had gone against him many times. Previously, he had the protection of a great emperor clan. This time in the extreme Dao world, he wouldn't let Gu Feng go. Therefore he made a move. After Lin Xian walked out, he said coldly, "I heard that you've been looking for me all over the world and even wanted to kill me. I'm standing here now. I'll give you a chance. Make your move." Gu Feng's face darkened and his brows furrowed tightly. He did want to kill the other party before, but the fact that the other party came out of the sea of bitterness was too strange. He examined him carefully but did not find any injuries on his body. Could it be that he had already recovered? Even an injury of the extreme path could be healed so quickly. It was truly unbelievable. Lin Xian sneered. "What? Am I standing here? You don't dare?" It was really trash. "Damn brat, you're underestimating me." Gu Feng was also furious. Regardless of whether the other party had recovered from his injuries, he decided to make a move. If the other party really recovered to his peak, he could just leave. He traveled the world and no one could stop him. He was very confident in his void technique. Thinking of this, he sneered. "Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish." Gu Feng moved. With a wave of his sleeve, tens of millions of spatial rifts shot forward. At the same time, a terrifying great Dao bloomed in Gu Feng's hand, and the void finger shot out. Silently, he instantly appeared in front of Lin Xian. Lin Xian gave a cold cry. Terrifying power instantly erupted from his body. With a single punch, he charged forward. At this moment, heaven and earth shattered. The sea of bitterness below surged. He was like the divine king, erupting with endless divine light. This punch shook the void. Tens of millions of large rifts in the surroundings shattered. Gu Feng vomited blood flying out backward. Half of his body turned into a bloody mist. He disappeared without a trace. Those people around were also sent flying by this power, vomiting large mouthfuls of blood. Their faces were full of horror. What kind of power was this? It completely surpassed them. Gu Feng screamed in pain. His face was pale, cold sweat flowing down. His entire person went crazy. How was this possible? Previously, he could not beat Lin Wuti because he was just a young big shot. And the other party was a double crown king. Now he had long become a double crown king. In addition, absorbing great Dao crystals these few years, his strength had long surpassed the past. He could completely compete with Lin Xian. But now he was actually seriously injured by a punch. The other party's power was too strong. But Lin Xian sneered. "What? Are you very surprised? Do you think that you're my match after becoming the double crown king? It's a pity that you'll never be my match. I'll let you experience my power." Lin Xian gave a cold snort. Stomping his foot, strong winds spread out, flames sweeping the 9 heavens. "Your cultivation." Gu Feng's eyes almost popped out. Late-stage great sage cultivation. Holy Lord. Did the other party break through to become a Holy Lord? This was impossible. Did the other party already reach this level? He turned around and fled. The previous Lin Wuti was already so terrifying without breaking through. Now that he broke through a realm, how powerful was his strength? He was not a match. Damn it. The other party had this kind of opportunity. His eyes were red. He was jealous to death, but he did not dare to fight at all now. He fled. Those people watching the battle in the distance were also dumbfounded. This was Gu Feng, the double crown king. How terrifying was the void power. But in front of Lin Xian, he didn't even have the courage to fight. Lin Xian sneered. "Are you trying to escape?" He pointed his finger like a sword. Wherever the sword pointed, heaven and earth would collapse. The endless void shattered. Within a crack, Gu Feng's body began to tremble. His face was pale. Then he tore open the void again. Great spatial shift. He instantly fled. It's useless. You can't escape. Rinnegan. Lin Xian used Rinnegan. Terrifying eyes appeared and looked down. 6 paths of reincarnation. Lin Xian locked onto the other party and slashed out again. 9 stars aligned. Between heaven and earth, 9 stars flickered, illuminating the sky. Then the 9 stars connected, and a divine sword swept forward. What kind of sword was this? The people in the nearby area all looked up at the sky. Heavens, did a god descend to the world? Someone was fighting. They were shocked. Gu Feng's scalp went numb. Feeling this sword, his face turned green. Damn it. He formed a void pagoda and stood in the void. When this pagoda appeared, the surrounding void instantly changed. It either rotated, folded, or directly formed a black hole. All offensive divine abilities couldn't pass through under the effect of such spatial power. This also gave Gu Feng hope to escape. However, Lin Xian's sword was invincible and had the power of the dragon soul. Therefore this sword directly sent the void pagoda flying. Whether it was the folded space, the rotated space, or the black hole space, they all shattered. One of Gu Feng's arms was cut off. However, he cultivated the great emperor's ancient scripture after all. The power of the void was terrifying. At the critical moment he still used great spatial shift to quickly escape. Although he dodged the fatal blow, he didn't dare to be careless at all. Because Lin Xian had a Rinnegan, that pair of eyes was enough to lock onto him, so he escaped like the wind. It's useless. You can't escape. Lin Xian stood in the void, using Rinnegan to the extreme. He firmly locked onto the other party. The power of reincarnation was indeed terrifying. The great spatial shift was also incomparably terrifying. If it were any other double champion, the other party would have escaped long ago. Chapter 5360. Lin Xian used his Rinnegan and charged into the distance. The power of reincarnation and the aura of the soul continued to descend. This eye technique was too terrifying. Even a sacred master might not be able to resist it. Gu Feng's expression changed when he felt this power. Damn it. His opponent's Rinnegan seemed to have become stronger than before. He struck out with a backhand palm. Space folded, forming a terrifying space law that shot up into the sky, forming a space of tens of millions of miles to resist his opponent's soul. Boom. The impact of the Rinnegan made a deafening sound in this space. In an instant the space was torn apart and then it quickly charged forward. Gu Feng's face turned pale and his blood boiled. Damn it. Lin Wudi, just you wait. Don't give me a chance or I'll make you wish you were dead. Lin Xian sneered from thousands of miles away. Give you a chance? Dream on. This is the time of your death. He did not intend to let him go. As he spoke, he shot out another soul flame that seemed to be able to burn everything. At this moment, the sacred ancestors were so scared that their bodies trembled. The power of this soul was enough to destroy their souls. Void exile. Gu Feng shouted angrily. The power of space tore apart, forming cracks that enveloped his body. He was exiled to the eternal universe. Kill him. Lin Xian shouted angrily, and endless sword energy appeared on his body. He took out the Hellfire Dragon sword and slashed the sky, and a terrifying sword energy shot up into the sky. The void in the sky shattered. Gu Feng was in the space tunnel and he was also affected. Damn it. It was the power of the great dragon sword soul. This power was invincible and it could destroy the void. Even if he was exiled he could still be slashed. Damn it, he seemed to have met his nemesis. His opponent's eyes could find his location, and his sword technique could threaten him. Although his space god art was powerful, if these two were combined it would be useless. He could not do anything. Moreover, Lin Xian's cultivation had broken through, and he was much stronger. Space seal. Gu Feng gritted his teeth and threw out a scroll. The scroll opened. There was an extremely terrifying space above. The moment the formation was formed, it sealed the world. The sword chi that filled the sky seemed to have been sealed as well. When they collided with the sword chi, there was a deafening sound. That's great. Gu Feng grabbed this chance and quickly escaped. Can you leave? The heavenly Tao of Samsara. The hand of heaven descended from the sky, causing the winds and clouds in the void to tremble. At the same time Lin Xian used the 9-star alignment. Sword chi filled the sky and formed a divine sword. The seal of the void was broken with a single slash. The scroll was also split into 2 halves. Gu Feng vomited blood again and was sent flying. Damn it! He roared crazily. Lin Xian's terrifying demon god wings appeared behind his back. With a flap of his wings, he drew a streak of light in the air. This time he gave chase. Demon god seal. A huge seal descended from the sky, shattering the surrounding void. Gu Feng used Greater Void Shift, narrowly dodging this attack. However, his expression became even more terrifying. Void Blade. At this moment he waved his hands. Several terrifying void blades appeared around Lin Xian and slashed towards him. He couldn't block them at all. He used the power of his divine body to block them. When these void blades hit his body, they produced a deafening sound, causing his qi and blood to churn. However, at this moment his physique was much stronger than before. After all, he was now a true sacred venerate. Therefore he used his physique to completely block the void blades. It's useless. If you hadn't broken through, your void laws would indeed be a threat to me. You could even tear my body apart. Unfortunately, I've already broken through. I've become a true sacred venerate. My 9-yang divine body has improved. With your current void divine ability, I'm afraid it'll be difficult for you to tear my body apart. Damn it. Almost. Gu Feng gritted his teeth. Why didn't he find him earlier? If he found him before he broke through, he was absolutely confident that he could compete with him. However, he couldn't do it now. Damn you, Lin Wudi, get out of here. As Gu Feng fled, he turned around and threw out a void cauldron. That cauldron contained powerful spatial laws. It condensed and moved, instantly enveloping Lin Xian. In an instant, he teleported Lin Xian into the Sea of Misery. Thinking about it, the Sea of Misery's power should be able to restrain Lin Xian. After doing all this, Gu Feng heaved a sigh of relief. Below, Lin Xian instantly returned to the starting point. He even entered the Sea of Misery. As expected of a spatial divine ability. It was indeed powerful. The surrounding Sea of Misery's power attacked. Lin Xian used the reincarnation path. A mysterious hand enveloped him. The reincarnation path's power blocked the Sea of Misery's power. Lin Xian charged out again. You can't escape. Lin Xian charged out. Demon God Wings. Once again he used his maximum speed to chase after Gu Feng. Gu Feng's expression was ugly. Even this couldn't restrain his opponent? He could only frantically escape. Now he desperately hoped to meet the Fire Qilin or someone from the Purple Mansion realm. This way he could join forces with them. Lin Xian naturally knew that there was more than one double crown champion in this world. He wouldn't let these people join forces. He frantically chased after Gu Feng. The two of them, one fleeing and one chasing, flew continuously in the extreme path world. During this period they met many people. They all looked up at the sky. Heavens, what a terrifying spatial power. It's Gu Feng. What is he doing? He's escaping. No way, he's a double crown champion. He even cultivated the great emperor's ancient scripture. Who could threaten him? The people below went crazy. Next they saw a black light streak across the void. Only the powerful divine ancestors could see it. Heavens, this speed is too fast. Demonic Qi. What a terrifying demonic Qi. Is the demon god descending? Why do I feel that this aura is like Lin Wudi's? A divine ancestor from the Golden Crow race felt his scalp go numb. The others also sucked in a breath of cold air. Indeed, they all knew that Lin Wudi had the Demon Emperor's inheritance. Lin Wudi was chasing after Gu Feng. Heavens, this is too unbelievable. Countless people looked up at the void. At this moment, no one dared to make a move. Boom. Lin Xian chased from behind while brandishing the Nine Suns' divine fist. His fist turned into a sun and flew forward. At the same time, he once again unleashed Sword Qi, which turned into a terrifying dragon and charged forward. Wherever it passed, nothing could stop it. Gu Feng, who was in front, constantly used the law of space to dodge. His qi and blood were tumbling. This was the best situation. If he didn't have the great emperor's spatial divine ability, he would have died 100 times. Even so, his situation wasn't good. If Lin Xian really caught up to him, he would be in danger. Chapter 5361. At this moment, Lin Xian was at the back. He held the divine sword with both hands and slashed out. This sword carried supreme power, splitting the entire world into two halves. Gu Feng was also beaten until he spat out blood and retreated. He gritted his teeth. Despicable brat, you're going too far. He took out a mirror that emitted an extremely terrifying aura. It was a replica of the Void Mirror. In this world where extreme weapons couldn't be used, this weapon could be said to be the strongest. As soon as the replica of the Void Mirror appeared, tens of thousands of rays of light shone down. The terrifying power of the void rushed over. Lin Xian sneered and used his sword technique. Clang. The sound of collision rang out and the surrounding sky and earth cracked. Lin Xian used the Rinnegan and the 6 paths of reincarnation. Above the terrifying heavenly Tao, endless heavenly lightning descended with destructive power. The 6 paths of reincarnation formed by the Rinnegan enveloped Gu Feng. It was as if it wanted to reincarnate him. Gu Feng's expression was ugly. He felt a terrifying aura. Damn it. The spatial laws on his body condensed, causing him to float in a separate void to prevent himself from being swept by this spatial power. Void flag. He then took out 36 large banners. These banners were imbued with the power of the void, and they were fixed in place in all directions. They formed a unique space. Lin Xian was also enveloped. Suppress him. Gu Feng gritted his teeth. He used the replica of the void mirror and the void array with all his strength. This space was formed by him and he was the ruler here. Lin Xian also felt the suppression of the spatial power, causing his body to shake. One had to admit that the successor of the great emperor was indeed strong. Gu Feng's bloodline was inferior to the emperor's, but his cultivation of the ancient earth scripture had already surpassed the emperor's. Competing with the ancient earth scripture? Lin Xian snorted coldly. He also cultivated the ancient earth scripture. Demonic energy surged out from his body. At the same time he took out the great destruction spear. This weapon seemed to be born for demons. Lin Xian transformed into a demon god and waved the great destruction spear. He used his strength to the extreme and charged forward. This attack contained many of his laws, the power of his divine body, the power of the great dragon sword soul, and the power of the ancient scripture of earth. Together with the power of the great destruction spear, the power of the great destruction spear merged perfectly. It collided with the spatial formation formed by the other party. The sound of the mirror shattering rang out, and a crack appeared on the entire array formation. Then it spread in all directions. Damn it. Gu Feng's expression became extremely ugly. The next moment he gritted his teeth. Break from me. A destructive aura erupted from the cracked spatial array, and he was sent flying while coughing up blood. It was obvious that he had chosen to fight with a lose-lose strategy. However, in his opinion, although he was injured, his opponent's injuries should be more serious. Boom. An earth-shattering sound spread out in all directions. At this moment, the entire sky was completely illuminated. The people in the distance also raised their heads. What was going on over there? Is it the aurora? Countless exclamations were heard as they felt a destructive power. No one dared to go. Lin Xian walked out from the power of the aurora with boundless sword aura all over his body. Layers of sword chi formed hundreds of sword chi shields enveloping him. The dozens of sword chi shields outside had already become dim and lightless. They had been struck by that power. However, those that were close to him were still indestructible. Lin Xian's expression was solemn. He said coldly, "Show me what other trump cards you have. Otherwise I'll send you on your way." Damn it. Gu Feng gritted his teeth. He had risked his own injuries to injure the other party, but he still didn't succeed. He knew that the gap between them was too big. Even if he had a trump card, it would be difficult for him to fight against the other party. Moreover, the other party cultivated the ancient scripture of earth. The only thing he could do now was to run. Gu Feng used the ancient scripture of void to the extreme, and 1,000,000 spatial clones appeared beside him. The spatial aura on each of them was extremely terrifying. It was impossible to distinguish the real from the fake. At the same time, 1,000,000 spatial channels appeared around the 1,000,000 spatial clones. Then these clones entered the spatial channels and were teleported to different places. Kid, let's see how you can escape this time. He didn't believe that the other party could find him. Even if the other party found him, he would have already teleported away. The people watching from afar were shocked. This was the divine art of earth. It was indeed powerful. Whether it was killing the enemy or escaping, it was exquisite and unparalleled. Those old divine ancestors were also helpless in the face of such a situation. Would Lin Xian be able to fight against it? Some people shook their heads. Lin Wudi was strong, but in the face of such a peerless divine art, he wouldn't be able to find the real one, right? It seemed that it was impossible for him to kill Gu Feng this time. Lin Xian also frowned. Could it be a divine art created by the Void Emperor? It was indeed powerful. His Rinnegan could indeed find the real one, but he was afraid that the other party would escape. Thinking of this, he used another ultimate divine ability. He also cultivated the ancient scripture of earth, the demonic summoning scripture. At this moment, the demonic chi on his body was constantly circulating, and a demonic shadow appeared behind him. The moment the demonic shadow appeared, the sky fell and the earth cracked. No one could withstand it. Moreover, the demonic shadow had an endless amount of demonic chi in its hand, forming a flute. Demonic tune, absolute annihilation. A cold voice sounded. Then, with the demonic shadow as the center, the terrifying sound swept out in all directions. The surrounding mountains were instantly shattered, and the forest was torn apart. This sound seemed to have turned into a peerless heavenly blade, attacking in all directions. In the sky, the clones and the space tunnels were shrouded by this sound and were torn apart in an instant. At this moment, millions of clones were constantly being torn apart. Those people in the distance looked up at the sky with horror. What kind of divine art was this? Lin Wuyi actually still had a trump card. Run quickly. Some people frantically ran away. Lin Wuyi also cultivated the divine art of the great emperor. How could his methods be weak? The sky was completely shattered, turning into an endless black hole. The demonic tune was still sweeping out. Millions of space tunnels were affected. Damn it. Gu Feng's real body's face became incomparably ugly. The other party could actually make such a terrifying sound. Especially that demonic shadow, it made him feel terrified. Illusory shift. It was too late for him to escape. He could only make his body transparent. This way he could hide in the void to avoid this power. In the sky, millions of space tunnels were shattered, and endless black holes were floating. However, under the extreme power they slowly recovered. At this moment a figure appeared. Gu Feng's face was pale. There were countless small cracks on his body, which were torn apart by the sound. Even if he used illusory shift, the moment he changed in the void he was still hit by this power. Chapter 5362. Gu Feng's expression was extremely ugly. He took out a healing elixir from his storage ring and swallowed it. These elixirs were used at critical moments to save his life. They were extremely precious and he didn't have many of them. He swallowed 2 of them to temporarily suppress his injuries. It seemed like he could only use that move. Gu Feng's expression was extremely serious. With his current strength, it was too much for him to use this move. However, he couldn't care less about it. If he didn't use his ultimate move, he would definitely die. Thinking of this, he took a deep breath. A terrifying aura of death gathered around him and spread in all directions. Then it formed a terrifying scene. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. Another void seal? Gu Feng had used this move to seal him before. It was useless. You can't seal me. Gu Feng gritted his teeth. Kid, this isn't a void seal. This is the void world. I used the void law to create a real world. In this world I am the king. Gu Feng shouted coldly. The void world descended and enveloped him and Lin Xian. Void world. Lin Xian frowned after hearing this. He sensed carefully and realized that this wasn't a space. It had surpassed the saint realm of the saints. It was very similar to a world. He was shocked. This was the method of the great emperor's inheritance. A real great emperor should be able to create a world. However, Gu Feng in front of him probably couldn't. He said coldly. Although your divine ability is strong, your strength is too weak. Your world can't affect me at all. Stupid. You underestimate our void family. Let me show you what it means to be the king of space. With a shout, the void world started to spin crazily. A terrifying spatial aura swept through everything. Lin Xian felt that his divine body was attacked again. There was the sound of bones cracking as if it wanted to tear him into pieces. Not only that, but Lin Xian also felt as if his body had entered a different dimension. This burst of spatial energy caused his 9 sons' divine body to violently shake. There were cracks on it. It had to be said. The void world was indeed strong. Seeing the 9 yang divine blood falling from the void world, Gu Feng smiled. Did you see that? This is the power of my void world. Your divine body can't withstand it. If he couldn't resist it, then he would shatter it. Lin Xian's eyes shone with a cold light. The Hellfire Dragon sword glowed brightly as if it had transformed into a hell dragon. With a slash of his sword, a dazzling sword light swept out in all directions. Endless cracks appeared in the void world. It shook violently as if it was about to be split into 2. Gu Feng's body also swayed, suppressing him. He roared madly as he used the power of the void to send these sword chis into different dimensions. He wanted to use the power of this space to kill his opponent. Lin Xian snorted coldly as the nomological laws on his sword aura swept out. A terrifying dragon roar reverberated throughout the heavens and earth. More and more cracks appeared in the void world and spread out in all directions. It could shatter at any moment. Seeing this scene, Gu Feng's face turned pale again. He coughed up large mouthfuls of blood, and his body began to tremble. Damn it, his opponent's swordsmanship was so terrifying. A hint of madness appeared in his eyes. He was going to go all out. This time he had to get rid of the other party. Void burial. As his voice fell, the entire void world completely shattered. A terrifying power of the void engulfed the heavens and earth, completely erupting at this moment. Gu Feng's body was also sent flying by this power. He coughed up large mouthfuls of blood. He was severely injured. Aha, go to hell. This move was to shatter the void world and use the power of the entire world to kill the enemy. However, the impact on his body was also very great. His foundation was also injured. It would be very difficult for him to recover. However, compared to killing Lin Wuti, so what if his foundation was injured? As long as he was alive, he would be victorious. The void world, which had already been shattered into pieces by Lin Xian, was now completely torn apart. A terrifying power enveloped Lin Xian. On Lin Xian's body, cracks appeared on his 9-yang divine body. He knew that his opponent was going all out. This was the power of the world. It was too terrifying. His body couldn't withstand it. You think you can kill me by going all out? What a joke. So what if you have many trump cards? You want to compete with me in the world? You're ridiculous. Lin Xian snorted coldly. He decisively activated the sword world. Entering the sword world, he controlled this world and rushed over. The two worlds were colliding. At this moment, the extreme path world also let out a rumbling sound. One after another, large cracks swept out in all directions. In fact, the entire world was shaking. Everyone went crazy and looked up at the sky. Damn it, what happened? Was the extreme path world about to shatter? This was impossible. This was a world formed by several extreme path weapons. Who could break it? Even a quasi-emperor couldn't break it here. Unless a true great emperor appeared. But how could a great emperor appear now? What was going on? Why was this world shaking? Could it be those extreme path weapons? What was the change? Was someone using an extreme path weapon here? No, the extreme path weapon was suppressed. No one could use it. Everyone went crazy. They thought of countless possibilities, but they rejected them one by one. They really couldn't think of who could cause such a terrifying scene. In the depths of the extreme path world, there were extreme path weapons. For example, the black tortoise from before and a few others. There was an extreme path weapon in the shape of a treasure bottle, and the other was a war spear. Its entire body was emitting a destructive aura. In addition, there seemed to be a figure in the depths, but it couldn't be seen clearly. At this moment, the black tortoise suddenly raised its head and looked at the distant sky. He was incomparably shocked. What was going on? This aura? Could it be? He was really too shocked. He soared into the sky, and the destruction war spear beside him also suddenly cut through the void. He was incomparably shocked and let out a sonorous sound. Why do I feel such a shocking power? What exactly was this thing? Did a transcendent power descend? Quickly go and investigate. The dark green treasure bottle also flew out, emitting a dignified sound. To be able to cause several extreme path weapons to be so shocked, one could imagine how terrifying the power ahead was. In front of him, amidst the terrifying power of the world, the smile on Gu Feng's face froze, and he became terrified. This was because he realized that his void burial seemed to have been blocked by someone. Not only that, he was gradually being suppressed. In fact, an extremely terrifying power was charging towards him. How was this possible? This was the void power that he used with all his might. No one could block it. Not even the Sacred Lord could, unless the other party used an extreme path weapon. But in this world it was impossible. Then how did the other party block it? Did Lin Wuti still have a trump card? He couldn't imagine. On the other side, Lin Xian was also shocked. Was this the sword world? It was too terrifying. Bombarding the other party's void world was not a problem at all. If the other party didn't want to use the world to compete with him, the other party wouldn't have died so quickly. Chapter 53-63. Lin Xian used Sword World to shatter the other party's void world. At this time, the Hellfire Dragon exclaimed, "Kit, quickly close your Sword World. I can feel a few extreme auras coming. Don't let them find out about this world. Otherwise, you will be hunted down by extreme weapons." Lin Xian was shocked. No way, he knew that Sword World was magical, but he didn't expect it to be so magical. He even wanted to obtain an extreme grade weapon? Thinking about this, he attacked again and closed the Music Sword World. Gu Feng, who was in front of him, was already heavily injured. Now that he was attacking with all his strength, how could he possibly block it? His body was torn to pieces. He turned into a bloody mist. His soul was also torn apart. Gu Feng was in despair. He couldn't resist at all. Was he going to die? He couldn't accept it. He finally became the Double Crown King. He wanted to shine. But was he going to die just like that? How hateful. He regretted it. He shouldn't have provoked Lin Wuti. However, it was already too late. His intent was gradually fading away. At this time Lin Xian rushed over. In the soul that was about to dissipate, he used Rinnegan. Reincarnation Human Tao. The world of reincarnation appeared and covered the soul. Then Lin Xian quickly left. Just as he left, a few figures flew out from the sky. It was a terrifying extreme weapon. They looked down. There was a huge battle here. There was the aura of the great earth scripture. These people should be the inheritors of the great emperors. Why do I feel an even more mysterious aura? But it disappeared in an instant. So weird. Who was the one fighting just now? They checked carefully. Black Tortoise frowned. One person had fallen. Space Energy, Gu family's inheritor. The green bottle was shocked. Double Crown King's aura. The inheritor of the great emperor's family had fallen. This situation was unexpected. Where was the other person? Destructive Spear asked. He didn't fall. He escaped. Was that kid? Black Tortoise in the sky waved his law. The 8 trigrams behind him rotated and a figure appeared. They saw Lin Xian's appearance and narrowed their eyes. This young man was not ordinary. He had many trump cards in his hands. He was also the successor of a great emperor, and he could sense several familiar auras from him. Could it be that he was the one who had unleashed that mysterious aura? Keep an eye on him. Several apex weapons were discussing in a low voice in the air. At the same time, outside the extreme path world, the people of the Gu family were furious. They were all roaring crazily. The eyes of the Gu clan's patriarch turned red. Behind him, the void mirror instantly exploded. A terrifying aura of the extreme Tao swept out in all directions. At this moment, everyone's hair stood on end. They were alarmed. The other emperor clans also frowned. What was Gu family doing? In an instant, the Yi clan, the 10,000 Dragon Dynasty, and the Fire Qilin Cave all asked about it. At the same time, they also secretly mobilized their extreme-grade weapons, afraid that the Gu family would attack them. The Gu clan's clan head held a soul jade tablet in his hand. At this moment, the soul jade tablet was covered with cracks. This was Gu Feng's soul jade tablet. Judging from its current state, it was most likely heavily injured. It was very likely that he had died. Damn it, who is it? The members of the Gu family roared crazily. The surrounding people were also shocked. It couldn't be. Gu Feng had died. They were all stunned. Gu Feng was the successor of a great emperor. Who was the hope of the Gu family? Could it be that the people of Mount Eternal had joined forces? For a moment, they all looked at Mount Eternal. The people of Mount Eternal sneered. Regardless of whether it was their people who had done it or not, they were very happy. The Gu clan's patriarch took a step forward. Carrying the apex weapon, the void mirror, he walked towards the extreme path world. He wanted to open the extreme path world and investigate the situation inside. In front of him, the extreme path door shook violently. At the same time, the black tortoise flew out from the extreme path world. He shouted coldly, "What are you trying to do? Descendants of the void great emperor, are you going to start a war? The successor of my Gu family has died inside. I want to investigate." The Gu clan's patriarch roared crazily. Now he was extremely regretful. There were conditions for entering the extreme path world. Only powerhouses under 5,000 years old could enter. The second condition was that there was no apex power inside. In other words, apex weapons and great emperor formations could not be brought in. Naturally, the void mirror was not brought in. Not only the void mirror, but the 10,000 dragons portrait and the apex weapons of the other monarch clans were all left outside. Otherwise, Gu Feng, Hua Qilin, and the others would not be able to enter the extreme path world. Originally, they thought that no one would be able to use apex weapons and great emperor formations. This way it would be fair for everyone. Even if they were defeated, it would not be a problem for them to escape. They could accept failure, but now that Gu Feng had died, they could not accept it at all. The other great emperor clans also had solemn expressions. Gu Feng's death made them extremely nervous. Was the successor of their clan in danger? Who was it that did this? Did the 10 envoys of Mount Eternal join forces? If that was the case, who would be able to resist them? Without apex weapons, the other princes and successors of the great emperors would probably die. They were extremely nervous. However, the black tortoise shouted coldly, "You can't go in. I've already said that life and death in the extreme path world is up to fate. Could it be that your Gu family can't afford to lose? Since you can't afford to lose, why did you come? Damn it." The patriarch of the Gu family roared towards the sky. The void mirror behind him emitted a mysterious aura. The might of the apex weapon spread in all directions. Everyone felt their scalps go numb. They retreated in horror. The black tortoise shouted coldly, "You want to compete with me in apex weapons?" With a clang, The mysterious runes behind him condensed into an 8 trigrams diagram that kept spinning in the sky. In an instant it blocked the power of the void mirror. Not only that, the power of the 8 trigrams diagram was even more terrifying. After all, the black tortoise was an apex weapon. Moreover, it was a fully awakened apex weapon that could be fully awakened at any time. This power was really too strong. The patriarch of the Gu family was forced to retreat continuously. The elders of the Gu family, however, rushed out. They took out powerful resources and were ready to fully awaken the void mirror at any time. At this moment, the divine ancestor of the Thousand Dragon dynasty walked out and said, "Previously we thought that the successor of the great emperors would not die. But now the situation is beyond our expectations. We must know what happened. The other successors of the great emperors seem to be in danger." That's right. The people of the Fire Qilin cave walked out. The people of the Kunpeng clan and the Purple Mansion clan walked out one after another. They were also incomparably nervous. Apex weapons also appeared behind them. In an instant, the terrifying might of the apex weapons swept out in all directions. Even the black tortoise's brows were furrowed. The black tortoise also frowned tightly. Although he had completely awakened on the other side. 4 apex weapons appeared in an instant, making him feel as if he was facing a great enemy. At this moment, another figure flew out from the gate of extreme path. Chapter 53-64. It was a battle spear that emitted a destructive aura. The moment it appeared, everyone knelt down in fright. It was too terrifying. After the destruction spear appeared, it was incomparably powerful. The extreme Dao realm had its own rules and no one was allowed to break them. If you want to fight, we'll accompany you to the end. We don't mind fighting with you. But think about the consequences. Your great emperor clan will vanish into thin air and cease to exist from now on. Speaking of this, the aura on his body instantly erupted. In the next instant it fully recovered. The expressions of the surrounding people turned ugly. The Gu family, Yi family, Thousand Dragon Empire, Fire Qilin Cave, and the others were all on guard. It was impossible for them to fully recover in an instant. This was because they knew that the weapon spirit was in a deep sleep most of the time. After all, the extreme Dao weapon had to protect their great emperor clan for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of years. Their great emperor clan didn't have the power to fully recover the extreme Dao weapon. The extreme Dao weapon in front of them could only be said to be too strange. Perhaps their great emperor had done something when he left the extreme Dao weapon behind. The atmosphere between the two sides was incomparably tense. At this moment, the sacred master of the Fire Qilin cave walked out and said, "We don't want to break your rules, but every successor is too important to us. If they die, we can't bear it." And this time, with the appearance of Mount Eternal, the 10 of them could sweep everything away. This is too unfair to us. The sacred ancestor of the Kunpeng clan also walked out. In the sky, the black tortoise 8 trigrams diagram said in a deep voice. The Gu family's successor wasn't killed by a joint attack. He died in a one-on-one battle. What, a one-on-one battle? Everyone was even more shocked. It was too unbelievable that someone could kill Gu Feng. One had to know that Gu Feng cultivated the inheritance of the Void Emperor. He had spatial abilities that could appear and disappear unpredictably. If he wanted to escape, who could stop him? Perhaps even 2 or 3 double crown champions might not be able to stop him. But now he was killed by someone. If it was the 10 great emissaries of Mount Eternal, they could believe it. But now, someone had killed him in a one-on-one battle. This was too shocking. It was absolutely impossible to kill someone who had the inheritance of the Void Emperor. Could it be that the other party had used an extreme weapon? The black tortoise 8 trigrams diagram said that the other party did not use any extreme weapons. Everything was carried out according to the rules inside. Gu Feng's death could only be attributed to his inferior skills. Damn it, the head of the Gu clan simply could not accept this. Their successors were not as skilled as others? This was a huge blow to them. Those from Mount Eternal were also frowning. Was it done by one of their people? Perhaps only the first emissary had such power. After all, the other party cultivated a void god art. The sacred ancestor of the 10,000 dragons diagram walked out and said in a deep voice, "Gu Feng's death surprised us greatly. It was also very shocking. We are all very worried about our heirs, so we want a guarantee." "What kind of guarantee do you want?" The halberd of destruction in the sky shouted coldly. The saint leader of the 10,000 dragon dynasty said solemnly, "Their heirs could be defeated but they couldn't die." That's right, the Fire Qilin Cave's experts also walked out. Previously, an emissary from Mount Eternal had been eliminated. What kind of method did he use? We also want this kind of method. As soon as these words were spoken, countless people turned their heads and looked at Mount Eternal. The 10th emissary of Mount Eternal had obviously been defeated. Then he fled for his life. How did the other party do it? Gu Feng had earth and space god arts, but he couldn't escape from the extreme Tao world. However, the people of Mount Eternal had done it, which really shocked them. Looking at the surrounding gazes, the elders of Mount Eternal sneered. This is the supreme power of our Mount Eternal. How could you have it? So what if these great emperor clans had extreme Tao weapons? Their Mount Eternal had a human sovereign. A living human sovereign was not something that extreme Tao weapons could compare to. That method was also not something that the other party could imagine. When the human sovereign came, he had planted an indestructible rune between the eyebrows of the 10 great emissaries. This was the ultimate life-saving method, but it could only be used once. The saint leader of the 10,000 Dragon Dynasty transmitted his voice to the great emperor clans. Even the other clans of the remote antiquity had joined forces in secret. They didn't want their top geniuses to die. Therefore, in the end, everyone joined forces and spoke in a deep voice. We need a guarantee. We can eliminate them, but we must protect the lives of our geniuses. Black Tortoise frowned and said to the destructive spear, "What do you think?" If it was anyone else, they wouldn't have cared at all. However, an extreme Tao weapon had already appeared. This was an existence that wasn't weaker than them. Although it was different from them and was sleeping, they didn't dare to underestimate it. Moreover, a power that surprised them had also appeared in the extreme Tao world. And the people of Mount Eternal had also come. If the 10 kings of Mount Eternal were to join forces, they would indeed be a terrifying force. And what was even more strange was that kid. What kind of power did that kid use before? What could make us feel so shocked? If he used that kind of power again, no one would be able to stop him. Black Tortoise's eyes flickered. The people of Mount Eternal had also come out. It seemed that the other forbidden lands of death weren't far away. In the future, we still have to rely on the power of these great emperor clans, so let's give them face. Okay. Black Tortoise also nodded. He said, "Sure, you can rest assured and wait outside. We will change the power rules inside so that your descendants won't die, but will only be eliminated." As for the descendants of the Gu family, they could only say that they were a little unlucky. After speaking, the 2 extreme Tao weapons turned around and entered the extreme Tao door again. The others heaved a sigh of relief, but the people of the Gu family roared. However, they realized that no one was helping them anymore. The other descendants had their lives guaranteed, but it was a pity that Gu Feng. Damn it, he was killed by a single person. Who was it? Was it Mount Eternal? Those terrifying envoys? Or someone else? They thought of several possibilities. First, it was the people of Mount Eternal. Second, the Tao body of the Taoist sect was incomparably terrifying. They probably had the strength. There was also that Hun Tian. The last one was Lin Wudi. These people were very suspicious, but they didn't know who they were at all. There were also elders who said that although the soul jade tablet was broken, it wasn't completely cracked. This meant that Gu Feng still had a trace of his remnant soul. Perhaps the remnant soul could still come out when the time came. Even if it can't be completely recovered, we can still take revenge. Just as they finished speaking, the soul jade tablet suddenly shattered and completely cracked. Oh. The elders of the Gu family fainted from anger. Who was it? Now Gu Feng had completely fallen. There wasn't even a trace of his remnant soul left. Chapter 5365. Inside the Extreme Path world, Lin Shen left the battlefield and flew into the distance. He came to a mountain range, made a cave residence and flew in. He sat down cross-legged and entered the sword world. He took a deep breath and used Rinnegan. Previously, when he met Gu Feng, the other party wanted to kill him and he also wanted to kill the other party. In the end, the 2 sides fought and he killed the other party. This was the best opportunity to kill the other party because in this Extreme Path world, the Great Emperor weapon could not be used. If Gu Feng had an Extreme Path weapon outside, he would need to gather at least 3 Extreme Path weapons if he wanted to kill the other party. Only then would he be able to kill the other party completely. Just like when he killed the Dragon Prince, the current Gu Feng was much stronger than the Dragon Prince back then. However, in this sword world there was no need to care about all of this. The moment the other party turned into ashes, Lin Shen used Rinnegan. Reincarnation Human Tao sealed the other party's remnant soul. He didn't want to save the other party because the other party had the ancient scripture of Earth in his hands. Space was king, that was not a lie. It was a conclusion that people had reached after tens of thousands of years. Spatial magic was really too terrifying. If his cultivation hadn't increased this time, it wouldn't have been easy to kill the other party. Lin Xian didn't know much about spatial abilities, but he had a void beast by his side. He had a beast with him, but it could only use spatial teleportation. No matter how powerful the spatial magic was, there was no way. This time Lin Xian and Gu Feng fought, and he saw the other party's various spatial magic. Especially the void world at the end, which shocked him greatly. Therefore he wanted to suppress the other party's remnant soul and see if he could find some spatial magic. He hoped that his luck wasn't too bad. After all, this was just a remnant soul. Lin Xian didn't have much confidence in revealing the remnant soul. Lin Xian began to collect the other party's soul, and the remnant soul let out a crazy roar. However, under these eyes he couldn't resist at all. At this moment, Lin Xian's eyes lit up. He found him, and a shocking light burst out from his eyes. Rinnegan was used to the extreme, and in the next moment the soul turned into ashes. This was also why the soul jade tablet in the hands of the Gu family patriarch was completely shattered. At this moment, Gu Feng's soul completely disappeared. Lin Xian took a deep breath. Void God Finger. To think that the remnant soul in the prison had the method to cultivate the faux God Finger. The faux God Finger appeared and disappeared mysteriously. It was very effective in killing enemies with one finger strike. Lin Xian had experienced it before, but he was able to withstand it with his strong body. If he could learn it, he could use his fingers as a sword. With the sharpness of his sword art and the unpredictable appearance of his spatial god art, his power would probably be even more terrifying than Gu Feng's. Lin Xian took a deep breath and began to comprehend Master Su Shen. A few days later, an earth-shattering sound suddenly came from outside. The black tortoise appeared in the extreme Dao world, and the 8 trigrams diagram behind him kept blooming. It enveloped the entire extreme Dao world. Everyone felt a summoning power. What's going on? At this moment, the surrounding people were all shocked. What was going on? They don't know. They discovered that there was a huge formation above their heads that enveloped them. They wanted to resist, but it was useless. Whether it was the Alcade, the Fire Qilin, or the people from Mount Eternal, none of them could resist. They were all enveloped and then disappeared. Lin Xian also sensed the scene outside and immediately walked out. In the next moment, when he saw the 8 trigrams diagram, he took a deep breath. An extreme Dao weapon. What's going on? His figure also disappeared. Above the boundless sea of bitterness, the 8 trigrams diagram rotated. From there, one figure after another flew out. After they arrived, they looked around cautiously and found that most of the people who came in were here. What happened? Those terrifying double-crown champions all looked up at the black tortoise in the sky. The black tortoise said in a deep voice. Outside, those people from the Emperor clan and the clan of the Ancients are afraid that you will die, so they asked for a guarantee. I guarantee that you will be eliminated, but you can't die. I promised them, so now I'm asking you to gather together. I'll change the laws so that when your lives are in danger, you can be directly teleported out. It also means that you will be eliminated. Everyone was shocked when they heard this, but then they were overjoyed. Some of the double-crown champions frowned. What's going on? These extreme Dao weapons were so unruly that they would easily change the laws. Moreover, those landlords and the clan of the Ancients were actually able to join forces to fight against them. It was too unbelievable. After Lin Xian rushed over, he was also shocked. In the next moment, he seemed to have thought of something. Immediately, he narrowed his eyes. At this moment, the Fire Qilin walked out and said, "Senior, what happened? Little guy, you're very smart." The black tortoise looked down and said in a deep voice, "The successor of the Gu family is dead, so your elders and patriarchs are worried that you will also die. The successor of the Gu family, Gu Feng, is dead." When these words came out, everyone was stunned. Even the double-crown champion's pupils shrank. Kunping Zi, the Fire Qilin, and the others were also shocked because they had met Gu Feng before. They knew that Gu Feng had also broken through to become a double-crown champion. Such a person was actually dead? This was impossible. They shook their heads. Even if Gu Feng was defeated, he had mastered spatial magic. If he wanted to escape, even 2 double-crown champions couldn't catch him. Then what's going on? Was it someone from Mount Eternal? How many envoys from Mount Eternal had joined forces? Their brows were tightly knitted together. At the same time, they were also shocked. No wonder the rules were changed. Those people from the Emperor family outside would probably go crazy when they heard the news. The black tortoise didn't say anything else. Instead, he glanced at the void. Lin Xian's eyelids twitched. He felt that the black tortoise was looking at him. What's going on? Was he discovered? Gu Feng was naturally killed by him, but there were no spectators at that time. So these people didn't know. However, when he used the sword world, the Hellfire Dragon inside reminded him that the extreme Dao weapon was flying over quickly. He had no choice but to close the sword world and leave quickly. Perhaps it was at that time that he was targeted by the extreme Dao weapon. This made him feel a sense of danger. No matter how strong he was no match for the extreme Dao weapon. The Hellfire Dragon said, "Kid, don't worry. They are suspicious now, so they won't make a move easily. Moreover, with your identity, the Divine Union and the Heavenly Court behind you as well as the Quasi-Emperors, they won't make a move easily." Hearing this, Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief. However, this made him more careful in the future. It seemed that the sword world couldn't be easily displayed. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.